You gotta love that, right? Starting off with the dead air with a muted mic. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for another awesome episode. We are LPA, the LP Alliance, an inter-caucus coalition working to rebuild the Libertarian Party and revolutionize the liberty movement. And it's something we're very serious about. We've been getting all the best guests, and I'm stoked for our guest tonight. We got a killer interview, one that people are really anticipating. I expect, some good conversation, some tears, some blood. We'll see where it goes. Um, Happy to introduce and bring on Ben Weir, the chair of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. How's it going?
I am stoked to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I know this is like territory that you guys were probably like shaking to bring me on. I'm just kidding. I'm not a terrifying person. I'm actually like, I'm excited to be here and be a part of this conversation, answer questions, talk about LPNH, LNC, Machiavellianism, anarchism. I don't care. You guys are all seem pretty nice. I haven't actually met Rose or talked to Rose, but
yeah,
I think we interact on Twitter sometimes.
I think we've had like a few brief exchanges, but yeah, nice to meet you. So yeah, we're here to talk about either the most famous or most infamous state affiliate of the Libertarian Party, depending on how you look at it.
Well, so starting on that note, certainly, and we've discussed this with Ben coming into it, and he has agreed we're not going to shy away from any questions. We're going to have a civil conversation that we hope will be productive. But I want to start off with not softball questions, but kind of leading into it. Like, what made you want to run for chair of New Hampshire?
It's like one of those things is like, if not me, then who? But like, it's not like I've been involved with the LP for a very long time. I started out in California. I helped as like a regional, the northern coordinator kind of, and helping them. And then I was like, with the Libertarian Party of Sacramento. I moved out to New Hampshire in 2022, a couple of years after that. And, I kind of like hit the ground running. I ran for sheriff my first year here. And then as a libertarian, I served on the board for LPNH the next term as, I believe, just like an at-large, and then took like a year or so off. Yeah, and then I was like, I'll run for chair. Like, I've got some ideas I like to implement. And honestly, the way that membership and affiliates have been trending over the last few years, declining in membership, not doing so much events, stuff like that, kind of needed some new energy brought in to kind of like get people excited to be a part of the group again and to do activism and do like, real world political things. So I'm trying to bring that energy back and bring some new ideas that might be unconventional for some affiliates. But here in New Hampshire, we've just, we've got a lot of different strategies, and we're trying to kind of like morph them all into one big, idea and just push forward. Like, I honestly, like, maybe there is such thing as a bad idea, but like, unless you try, it's really hard to say if it's a bad or a good idea anyways. But so far things have been going really good. I kind of knew what I was getting into. Obviously being chair of LPNH, is like one of those things is like, even if you come in with good ideas, like you're going to get like hate from people no matter what. So I take a lot of shit on Twitter already. So I was kind of like born for this, I think. I'm just, but yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm really stoked. I've got a lot of plans for LPNH and just the Libertarian Party in general. I also have my nonprofit, Punks for Liberty, and, the LP Emo Caucus as well. So, and I'm a dad, which is great too. So that's...
Oh yeah, congratulations on that. Yeah, so awesome. My 15-year-old had no interest in the Libertarian Party until I told her that there's an Emo Caucus, and now she's claiming she's going to take it over. So that may actually be the thing that gets her into libertarianism.
Awesome.
So yeah, she's obsessed with like MCR and Fallout Boy. So
nice.
In any event, though, like, so my first question is, because the justification I frequently see for the social media strategy is that it's recruiting members and it's getting a lot of attention on your state affiliate. However, national reports supposedly show that sustaining membership in New Hampshire is actually down by at least 10% since January. So, or since January
that would be the national
anyway.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your question. Yeah, that is the national membership might be going down. That's actually like kind of partly my responsibility too, as like a regional alternate. So like we're supposed to make calls, and me and Pat both try to like call memberships that lapse for the national party. Our state affiliate membership is growing. Like it just went up like I think it was like 8% again during Pork Fest. So we keep going up in membership for our state affiliate, but our national affiliate, I would have to look at the numbers, but I would not be surprised if the national numbers are declining as well. So.
I got one follow-up question and then I'll shut up for a little while. So, and obviously like we're going to get into some of the stuff with messaging for the people watching. I've talked to Ben about this offline. He has put out there, if you have a problem, please reach out to me. And I will tell you that has been done in good faith. He has been very responsive and listened to my concerns. And I'm very optimistic about where this conversation could go. But what you just said is you have big plans for New Hampshire. So before we talk about all the other stuff, what do you want to do with New Hampshire? Where do you see it go, and what's success look like?
Okay, so success to me is leaving something better than I found it, really, which isn't hard to do with a Libertarian Party affiliate that has been struggling to do, regular events, stuff like that. So there is a 2-year plan that I developed that I put out and released publicly so that people can hold me accountable to it. And like, it kind of starts with, trying to get our infrastructure for LPNH under control, because it has been astronomically bad. You may have heard of like credentialing issues that had happened during, our recent convention. And, just in general, people weren't getting like confirmations that they were members or even that they signed up for the convention. It made things a huge headache. So we wanted to fix all these bugs so that those never happen again. So we have already, gotten a lot of those issues taken care of. We're adopting, Zoho as a CRM, importing. We actually found like tens of thousands of old files from old donors from like a long time ago that we're, going to start using for phone banking and stuff. But I mean, already, I was elected in the middle of March, and it's only been a few months in, and we've had more than one event at least every single month. And we've had multiple opportunities to phone bank for legislation. We helped get the New Hampshire car inspections. I don't know if what's going on there, but like most states don't require inspections for you to get like your car registered, but New Hampshire did. And it's kind of like a really scammy process. But we helped that get, shut out. They passed that through the House, a couple weeks ago. It's kind of like focusing on that. I've met with other liberty organizations and tried to figure out how we can, help advance liberty in a way that's like promoting libertarian values. But also, like in like unison with other organizations, because obviously there's strength in numbers, and the Free State Project brings a lot of numbers to New Hampshire. So, it's really getting the things organized, getting our data organized, getting that figured out. Like we've had like a really productive executive committee. Like we have been on point this entire time. I couldn't be happier with the people I'm surrounded with right now. Like, honestly, we're getting a lot done, and we have a pretty bright next couple months ahead of us too. So, anyways, I talk a lot, so you can tell me to shut up.
it might get a little bit more divisive here. I know Rob's trying to keep it, a little bit cooler in the beginning, and I understand the purpose of it. So one thing you said early on is that, somebody might come in with certain intentions and then not be able to do them because it is New Hampshire. And I've spoken to some people that knew you from California, and a lot of them, have told me they don't know what happened, like that. And so you know, some people that seemed kind of upset that they would kind of want you to kind of go back to, I guess, how they viewed you before. So when you came there, did you have the idea of this is the type of messaging that we're going to do? Was that not even a part of it? Was it, hey, I'm going into a place where they've already salted the earth, and like I'm just going to do what I can to make the function of the party function again, so then maybe people come back, and then we can change this type of divisive messaging? Or, you know, is really the goal essentially to push out everybody else except for a very narrow type of libertarian?
No, like definitely part of me wanted to make it kind of functional again, but the people that like knew me in California, like I'm the same person. I'm still a Machiavellian anarchist. Like, I don't know, like I haven't changed. I'm still like a nice guy. Like I don't know, like really what they're referring to specifically. They might be upset because like on Twitter, I like to troll people a lot. That's just a fun time for me. But
so I know I get this. I see a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm just trolling. I'm not, I don't really believe this. Oh my God, I almost just choked on gum. That would have been crazy. If it is just trolling, right? The problem is that you're associated with a group of people that it doesn't really seem like trolling, and the messaging doesn't seem like trolling. And it's the same kind of argument I've gotten from people that are like saying to Chase, like calling him gay or saying another slur, and then being like, well, I don't actually mean it that I hate gay people. But then like some of the rhetoric is like really, really bad about gay people, right? Like,
okay, so like in terms of like LPNH comms, like I'll be honest with you, like it doesn't hurt my feelings. I don't necessarily agree with some of the stuff that we post. But truthfully, like I post things on our LPNH page all the time, a lot of anti-war stuff. And there's others, you know, our comms team is anonymous for good reason, but you know, we have a lot of people that put their heads together, and we have like a really effective messaging strategy, which is trying to drive people to New Hampshire. Now, one of that side of that is that like we do try to like scare people that aren't compatible with like what we see as libertarianism, you know, from coming here. But, and some people might think that's controversial or maybe counterproductive, but honestly, like I think that like you kind of have to go back a little ways, because when Gilletta had the coup here, and she tried to, you know, do all that shit back then, you know, and JBH was involved in all that stuff, you know, immediately afterwards, like things kind of, the pendulum swung here, right? Like hard the other direction. And then you had, you know, like there was like a heavy Mises Caucus presence here. And when I moved to New Hampshire for a couple of months, I actually participated as a Mises Caucus organizer. But then there was like a huge fallout, and I'm sure that's like very public that this all happened. And at this point, there's like literally not even one Mises Caucus member in New Hampshire, I don't believe.
You don't even have an official Mises chapter, right? Like I remember when it happened, because I was Mises at the time. I remember people were happy that it happened, but it seemed to have happened for the wrong reasons. But anyway,
it doesn't exist at all here. Like there's nobody, like there's no chapter. And if there is, like, I don't know about it. So.
Right. Everyone associates the LPNH with the Mises Caucus, but yeah, they haven't had an official Mises chapter for probably 2 years at least.
What this divide is actually kind of what like took us in a new direction for communication strategy. So like we used to be like really well known for anti-war posting, which I don't think many people actually had a problem with a lot of it. I think that like a lot of people thought it was really solid. But you know, when that split happened and all this stuff happened, there was like a huge divide. Like basically someone came in, nuked all those chats from their national organization, and then, you know, all this shit went down where everyone hated each other basically. And they kind of refocused. I wasn't a part of this necessarily, but they refocused to, you know, kind of change their goals. Like they're still like very aligned with, you know, a lot of the principles that the Mises Caucus maybe had run on, you know, like Austrian economics, stuff like that, we all would kind of agree on that, obviously, and anti-war. But it shifted in a direction where we're like, we moved here for the Free State Project. So, basically they shifted into the Free State Caucus, which is, we're going to put New Hampshire first. And, we're part of like the national organization, as, we're part of that collective, capital L, libertarian. But, our goals as a state affiliate, because it's mostly controlled by the Free State Caucus, is going to be focused on what's happening here. We're going to do what's best for bringing new movers here, and, people who are counterproductive to our goals, we're going to discourage them from coming here. And I think that like, that's where you get into like, a lot of people get like freaked out about some of the edgier messaging. And like I said, I'll be the first person. Like, we have like internal disputes. We handle all those things inside, in our own house. We don't kind of take it publicly at all. We don't agree on everything that gets posted. There's things that I posted that, like the other people in the comments seem like, why would you do that? But like, like it kind of goes around. And I think it's like, it's funny because like a lot of blame gets put on, obviously, like Jeremy or whatever. But like sometimes there's stuff that like gets blown up and it's like he had nothing to do with that.
Okay, well, I won't force you to reveal the names of everyone.
I'm definitely not going to. I'll take the responsibility for my Twitter account. Like, this is my thing right now. So if anyone needs to hold it to me.
Before we get too deeply into the social media stuff, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of questions on that, I kind of wanted to go back to the whole, like the idea of working with other organizations, because like there was a proposed bylaws change that was controversial, which would have allowed your state affiliate to officially endorse candidates who are running under either Democrat or Republican Party. And okay, so coming from New York, where we don't even have ballot access, I actually have a very nuanced view on this. I know some people are like, okay, we exist to run candidates under the Libertarian Party and that's final. Like, I'm of the opinion that if you're running, okay, as like a presidential candidate or a Senate candidate or something that's not going to win, you run a solid libertarian candidate and you use that to spread messaging. However, when it comes to winnable races, such as at the local level, I am of the belief that, okay, I don't care which party you run under whichever party is going to get you elected, and you say whatever you have to, and then you get into office and you nullify unjust state and federal laws. However, like, some people are of the opinion that that bylaws change was really just something that would cement the kingmaker strategy and allow you to officially endorse Republican candidates. So, like, would you like to explain like why you decided that, like, or why you were an advocate of that bylaws change?
Sure. So one, like, I actually am trying to remember the bylaws change. I know that like I kind of helped write some of the bylaw proposals, but I don't believe that, and I don't remember the exact verbiage of that bylaw. It could have said endorse, but I don't believe it actually said endorse. I believe it was actually more so talking about like, our members. We don't actually have ballot access here. So if somebody wanted to be registered as one of the other parties, we would allow them to still be, a delegate or run as an officer, even if they're not no party preference on. I know that was one of them, and I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're talking about. But I do think that, we do have like a different strategy here in terms of like how we work with people across the aisle. We work with people that are both in the NHGOP and the NH Dems. And this is what's helped us get things like Defend the Guard gotten so far, which, I think there's actually a pretty good shot of us getting it past this time. There's some skepticism about that, but, we are like, like, for instance, there's like actually like a lot of our state house representatives that are National Libertarian Party members and LPNH members. And like, these are like legitimate Ron Paul libertarians You know, like one of my good friends, actually, he always wears a shirt. Ron Paul was always right. He's a big Ron Paul guy. You know, like nobody could talk to them or have any conversation with them and say like, oh, these guys aren't a libertarian just because they run as an R. Like that's ridiculous to say. And this is where like the capital L, lowercase L thing comes into play. We don't want to stand in the way of good lowercase L libertarians from being successful and passing things and getting things into the House, bringing legislation that LPNH members are writing to the House floor to try to get it passed. Like I think that if we were running against them or to try to, you know, compete with them by running a capital L against them on the ballot, I think that'd be ridiculous. It'd be like running against Thomas Massey, which I'm advocate against, but some libertarians would advocate for. And it's also like, you know, I got in a lot of trouble earlier this year when I talked about Vivek, and I'm a big Vivek fan, obviously. You know, he's not perfect, and I don't think he's like a perfect libertarian or anything, but I do like he is a libertarian. He's a National Party member. And I think it would be pretty ridiculous to run a candidate against the one governor candidate in the country that's going to do more deregulation than anyone else has in probably the last couple decades. So,
right. So it sounds like you're mostly talking about running libertarians as Democrats or Republicans, as opposed to working with Republicans and Democrats to try to get concessions from them. Because like the former, I understand that. And I'm not necessarily opposed to that if there were some like very strongly worded standards for how that could be done. Like, for example, if party bylaws said that, okay, this affiliate can endorse a Democrat or Republican if they had been a member of the state Libertarian Party for such and such amount of time, and they adhere to these particular standards while running as one of the major parties.
Yeah.
However, because it sounds like that's what you were talking about. However, then your state affiliate endorsed Trump, though, which makes it seem as if you're actually just willing to endorse Democrats or Republicans, mostly Republicans from the looks of it, in the hopes that you'll be able to get concessions out of them or that you'll be able to work with them.
And I honestly, like, that was like the previous executive committee. I'm not really sure what they had talked about. That was their decision. You know, I spoke out against it when that happened, but okay. You know, at the same time, like I don't know, like I talk shit about Trump all the time. Like I'm not a Trumper. I'm wearing a Make LPNH Great Again hat, but you know, this is a one of one. I bought this for myself.
Right. Yeah. No, I have seen you speak out against Trump. So yeah, I was wondering, if you were in favor of.
No, I didn't. I didn't support that. But okay. At the same time, like, you know, I came to be the chair like 5 months later. Like, I'm not gonna like go back in time and like, you know, like say like, you know, I talked to the like previous committees and talked to them about, you know, like, oh, like why would you do that? Like that kind of like sucks for me because I was on the LNC and it caused a lot of drama for me there. But like all those people are like my good friends, and you know, we all get along, and you know, we don't see eye to eye on everything necessarily, but like at the same time, I'm not gonna like badmouth their strategy. That was their strategy. I'm implementing my strategy. You know what I mean? So like what happened in the past, like I would love it if everyone could erase it. That's not going to happen. But like starting when I got elected going forward, that's what I would like to be known for, not like what happened before I got there. So, and that's impossible. That's not going to happen. Like I said, this is an, you know, a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation. So
can I jump on that one real quick?
Sure.
Because you said you'd love to erase it. So personally, I'd be down to erase it and let bygones be bygones if we were sort of confident in the way things are going forward. But, and for those watching, this is something I discussed with Ben offline as well, because he said reach out, and so I'm trying to respect that. But you all put out a tweet, and I mean the New Hampshire affiliate, before you were on, and it was something like, if you don't like our messaging, we don't care. We're doing what's right for New Hampshire. We don't even believe that people will become libertarian. So we had a pretty good year last year in North Carolina. We got over 50,000 registered libertarians. We're the second biggest affiliate and the first biggest by percentage registered now. We ran 52 candidates. We had 20% of all state level candidates. in the United States, third-party state-level candidates in the United States in North Carolina. Our governor candidate set a record for Council of State votes received, and we ran on about an $11,000 budget, and we would have had a $50,000 budget, but y'all put out the Nina Turner tweet, and we had $40,000 in funding pulled. So like, it does affect us. Like, it is not hermetically sealed. It spreads out, and y'all get a lot of attention. And there's one person whose name I don't mention, like Voldemort, but he has an undue amount of influence on the messaging. And honestly, like, he's one of few people that I just can't find. I feel he's like the appendix. Like, maybe at one point he served some purpose, but now he exists to sort of leak toxicity. And it is very hard as people reach out that want to join the party. In particular, there have been a lot of people coming from the left who are sort of like, liberty is really sounding more enticing. Like, they don't like Trump, but they saw what a disaster Biden was. And it is tough. Like, I want to be able to give them a confident answer. Right now, all I can say is we're doing what we can in North Carolina. And then, because New Hampshire, they're like, that's your most prominent affiliate. And they're like, look what they're saying. Look what they're doing. It carries some weight. Like, the impact, it resonates.
I truthfully, like, I think that the reaction that came from the Nina Turner tweet was kind of ridiculous. And people might think that's controversial for me to say. Like, I didn't think twice about it. That shit was funny. And I don't know, like, but, you know, truthfully, like, I do understand though, that like we have different affiliates have plausible deniability because there's like so many different affiliates that say so many different things. Like, for instance, like when I ran as a candidate in 2022, it wasn't quite like the stuff that I was being asked wasn't stuff that was like, you know, more from like right-wing libertarian affiliates. It was more from like, I was getting shit on for stuff that the left-wing libertarians, because that's who had controlled it for so long. So like, you know, people were, you know, basically knew us as open borders, you know, pro-abortion. And, you know, like the comments here are going to be like, you know, sure. I'm an anarchist through and through. So like, I believe in no laws whatsoever. So like, I like, you know, I get it, but I'm, for the most part, I feel like, you know, I have great answers when it comes to that stuff when I was running for sheriff, you know, when it comes to, you know, people's bodies and when it comes to borders, all that shit. Those are also two topics that I just fucking hate talking about because libertarians will never agree on them. One, it doesn't matter like if you're all right wing or you're all left wing, like everyone's going to have a different opinion. And like, truthfully, like I have the only correct opinion on borders that I've seen in the world. So, you know, but those reflected poorly on my sheriff campaign because there were like, you know, people getting naked on the LNC stage at convention several years back. You know, like those are what people knew libertarians for then. Now, like obviously tweets are becoming more prevalent. You know, you have things like, yeah, I thought that telling Nina Turner to go pick crops for free because she was demanding that people get free insulin, I believe it was appropriate response. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I'm just responding to that comment there. So
let me jump right in on that because here's my issue with that. If you had tweeted that, I would go down swinging defending you because it's from your personal account. And I don't think you're serious about it. And I think people are way too overreactive, especially on Twitter. It's not real life. But this is an official affiliate account. You are representing the party. Like it was put out there knowing the impact it was going to have. That was very deliberate. And that impact was really, really negative to a whole lot of us.
It also opened up the door to a lot of conversations about why free insulin is socialism and taxation is theft and all this other stuff. So like there's a positive side to all that stuff too, that you could spin it the exact opposite way. Like I had a ton of positive feedback from that as well. It wasn't just negative stuff. We have obviously got like national publicity, all this stuff, whatever, like, you know, candidates might have to respond to stuff like that, but there is plausible deniability. Like that's not your state affiliate. And if it is your state affiliate, well, what are you doing to help fix it. So
well, people
I
don't.
think your
People
wife.
don't.
I
People
think
don't.
your wife disagreed with me in the chat.
What are you doing to help fix it? I don't know. You guys try to make sure I couldn't go over to the convention. So what have you done to solicit alternative opinions? I mean, but I think we're getting away from the issue. I think we've kind of let the conversation slide a little bit. My question to you is, aren't you still ostensibly in charge of the entire affiliate? And therefore, doesn't the buck stop with you when Jeremy is tweeting this stuff? It's again,
so,
like Rob said, it came from your personal account. I'm going to hit you for it, but I'm not going to go after LPNH for it. So why does this have to come from LPNH when Jeremy has his own caustic Twitter account?
Cool. So did you sign up to be on the communications committee? Did you respond to the emails?
I did. I heard nothing back.
Did you respond to the emails by chance?
From what I understand, I was not the only person who didn't hear back.
I have the list still, and I'm just telling you, like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, if you want to help change things, you can like voice your opinion as a member. We have something called X Court where we debate the tweets that get posted, and as members, we in-house can hash these things out. And that's something that has been talked about multiple times.
So you're telling me that a majority of LPNH leadership also agrees with all of these tweets. Is that what you just said?
I'm saying that like we stand by our strategy. I'm not saying that everything's perfect that gets put out. There's a lot of stuff that we put out there that people wish we could take back. However, like we do believe that, as representatives of New Hampshire, we need to, focus on our own state and try to, at least promote to our people, essentially. And like,
so you're okay with promoting that New Hampshire is okay with racism?
Oh, well, so when did LPNH ever say that LPNH was good with racism?
I think the language is important here. Let me cut in here, Sarah, if you don't mind.
Go pick cotton.
Yeah. So I look at it like you have rhetoric from somebody that largely says that the only people that can become libertarian are white. Then you put out tons of kind of noxious messaging around race.
Dude, that has never been said. Like only white people can be libertarian.
He's talking about the probability being so high that you can basically treat other races as an entire collective, and maybe you'll find one that's possible to be a libertarian.
I don't agree with racial eugenic issues, shit like that. Like I don't like, and we talk about it in house. But the truth is that, like, I'm interested in the science behind it. Like, I think it'd be interesting to know, like, is it true that certain biologics make somebody more inclined to be liberty or not, whatever. But like, truthfully, like we have never said that only white people can be libertarians. I think that like what his argument mostly is that, most libertarians are white. Like this chat over here on the side, like we'll say like almost 100% of all these people are white people. And what are we doing?
Correlation is not causation, Bill.
Sure. There's nuance everywhere. Like people have different situations they grew up in. Like, there's all kinds of fucking shit that people go through. The government, like systematically oppresses people that are minorities. Like this is a fact. Like it's not something that I shy away from talking about at all. So, like to suggest though that LPNH would say something like that only libertarians are white, that's kind of ridiculous. We've never said that.
That wasn't the allegation. That's a straw man argument.
Yeah.
What we said is you're making multiple arguments that because most libertarians are white, that it should stay that way.
Or even that the ability to reach out to people is going to be completely dependent on a collectivist narrative. And the Libertarian Party, since its inception, has been an individualist movement. And this goes to maybe you said you wouldn't ever want to go against a Massey type or Ron Paul type. And I don't like the strategy of like libertarians running in the Republican Party. I know people have had success doing it, and there's been some policy that has been libertarian that's gotten through, like the auto inspection bill. But there's a big difference between Ron Paul, libertarians, and then Ron Paul newsletter libertarians, right? The ones that did not necessarily agree with Ron Paul, but were perfectly fine with this messaging that he himself denounced. And now they've converted this and kind of slapped on Ron Paul's good name onto this newsletter. And we all know as libertarians that newsletter is what killed him in the media, right? It stopped people from accepting the ideals of libertarianism because they looked at words that weren't his, ones that he's denounced, when he's came out and said that racism is a vile form of collectivism, right? And so that's a Ron Paul libertarian to me. And I know many of them that I have tons of respect for that are hardcore right libertarians. I myself defined my political space because of Ron Paul.
I've got to, so first,
I was
first
a Ron
all, guys,
Paul libertarian.
Like, I advocate for more Mexicans to move to New Hampshire because our food fucking sucks here. Okay. Let me start there. Our food sucks here.
We agree on
Mexicans to bring some ethnicity and some good food. Okay. And also some better workers, because I've worked construction and Mexicans work better than white people. Sorry, guys. That's just the facts. I'm just throwing it out there. Speaking collectively, it's true. But
that's been my experience too.
It's collectively. Say what you want. It is what it is. But truthfully, like, I think that, you know, I'm interested in the science behind, you know, like if there is anything truthful about, you know, the biological side to that. I think
I'm a biochemist. I'm interested in it too. I've brought up
I believe that the study, not causation.
Just real quick. I believe that the study that those statistics come from, I don't believe that mentioning just those parts of the statistics tells the full story. I think there's probably more to it. I've actually not looked into it too much, but I'm sure that like wherever you're pulling those from, there's a much broader study that can explain a plethora of other things that are going on there, like the nuances, stuff like that. But you know, it is interesting though. It is interesting. Like, I wish that libertarians could attract more people that weren't white, because I think white people are generally pretty boring and don't bring very much culture. So I'm just being honest.
Well, so I'm a biochemist, right? And I've thought a lot about this space. I've responded to Jeremy and some other of these eugenics people. And in some cases, they've had to concede that my argument actually does kind of break down some of the narrative. Some people just don't even respond to it, even when called out directly, even when that person comes and responds to me. So Voldemort himself, as Rob was putting it, has responded to somebody else in a chat, but then conveniently will not respond to me, even as I directly call him out. And I think that is somebody that is not looking for truth. They're looking for an argument from science from the 90s, which we've moved long past, right? There's a reason why. Okay, so everybody thought we were going to cure cancer when we understood genetics, and then it turned out it didn't do it. You know why? Because biology is so much more than just that code. It's modifications that happen after, right? These are not concrete bounds that happen. And so if you ignore that and the fact that science has moved beyond the 90s, you can be a race realist and kind of justify any bias you have. But you can't do that if you're actually trying to search for the truth in biochemistry, right?
Yeah. So I think that, like, more generally, like, it's not even so much like, I feel like the person who usually makes those kind of posts is open to having a conversation about it, you know, going from the other side, hearing what that has to say. But I honestly, I think the overall issue is, like, why aren't libertarians allowed to talk about that? Like,
why do we have to talk about it? I mean,
you don't have to, but nobody does. So why, like, why are there topics that are off limits to libertarians?
Why is this messaging and not strategy?
Say again.
Can I jump in there? Because Sarah, I actually kind of agree with that. I agree with that completely.
Because in marketing, my background's in marketing. In marketing, we have a discipline called psychographics. You've heard of demographics. How much money do you make? What kind of car do you drive? What neighborhood do you live in? And yes, what race are you? Fine. Psychographics actually look at individuals. And in fact, that's how Trump won the election. Trump micro-targeted traditionally, you know, underrepresented demographics who don't vote. He met them where they were at. He met them on issues and attitudes and styles. He went on Joe Rogan. Psychographics, not demographics. So if this is strategic, again, I can see how you might want to say, hey, how do we reach these people? I can see that as a marketer. But as a comms professional, why is that the messaging?
I mean, that's not. Is that the only thing you're pulling from our accounts, though? Because there's a lot of really good shit that was going up there.
No, okay.
Can I piggyback on that a little bit?
Sometimes you guys are based, and I tell you when you are. But the overall attitude on the account has not been positive towards anybody joining the Liberty movement.
Well, one demographic, disaffected groups of people that think wanting to be left alone means libertarianism, and that's not the same thing. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a psychographic. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
So, Ben, you said you would like to see more non-white people in the Libertarian Party.
100%.
And I'm with you. Like, in fact, it is insane to me that we have failed to make inroads to the Black demographic, because I mean, of all the groups out there, it's like between them and Native Americans, for who the United States government has fucked the most for the longest. Like we should.
Who do we have reaching out to them? Like thieves, like Maj Toure, like, you know what I mean?
Well, why aren't you?
But there are certain.
Why aren't you? There are Black people in New Hampshire.
But more than that, it's like, so look at some of the tweets. For example, it's clearly libertarians are more likely to be white. White people are 60% of Americans. It comes in certain pockets, like without a doubt.
And we're in one of the whitest states too. So like, I think there's an aspect there that like.
That's true.
But there could have been like really powerful messaging there, like, hey, why are libertarians mostly white? Like, for all our Black brothers and sisters out there, we got you too. Like, there's such a positive way to put it out, and it's worded in this way that it's walking a line at best. Another one that and to get off the racial stuff, but just like one that I personally kind of thought was hilarious and would have been great again from your account was the Meghan McCain one. Like,
I fucking love
that
tweet,
one I'm in favor of. Like, that didn't bother me.
The message is strong, but and again, maybe Sarah will back me up here, because again, marketing comms, consider your audience. What are people going to see when they see this? They don't see that we're going after a war criminal. They see that we're mocking a daughter mourning her dad's death.
Yeah.
And that you've lost half the audience instantly there. So I can't see the argument that this is an overall effective messaging strategy. There are ways to put these same things out that can still bring in the same people. I'm not saying don't push boundaries.
That's not true. It's very effective marketing. If that is the psychographic that you're trying to attract.
Okay, so highly focused. But I mean, North Carolina was tweeting the other day, like, the Second Amendment is for shooting cops. We're not shying away from edgy messaging.
Right.
But it's
right. Like, just being anti-state.
I don't know. It's just not turning off
as opposed to
is pretty edgy, but yeah.
So I bring this up because it is something we discussed. We discussed this a little bit beforehand about we've seen, and I know there are some things that you've posted on your main page that I disagree with. Some things we won't bring them up now that kind of make me question, how much you do this. But I've seen you push back against messaging through your personal page against something that gets, so LPNH will post something crazy, and then you on your personal page would go against it. Or Kauffman will post something like about IQ realism, and then you'll say basically anybody who constantly focuses on this is like a loser or something like that. And so it seems like you're counter signaling somebody in your affiliate that may be guiding messaging, and then your wife will constantly be doing it. And she just came in here and said that she's not, making excuses, but that she has them muted, right? So like,
she didn't even want to she didn't even want to come to convention to vote for me.
Sorry, Ben, 1 second. Can we highlight Chase's comment, please, Phil? Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a question that I have is like, do you actually believe these things? And some people have said and reached out to me that like you don't believe a lot of these things, right? That you don't fall in this, but you're kind of stuck, right? That you're stuck in a situation where this is what the current culture is there, and that you're just kind of sitting in the background. And I want to believe that, right? I want to believe that like maybe you're just sitting there in the midst trying to do what you can to make things better, because I'm all for the idea of incrementally making things better if you cannot make a drastic change. So I would be okay with that. But then there's a questionable messages that come out of your own account that make me go, well, I don't know what to believe here, right? And so I think we kind of need some clarification on that, right? Is this like, or do you agree with this? And are you stuck in a situation where if you did try to push back against this sort of messaging with what you actually believe, that you might be removed as chair position?
And don't you feel that your position compels you to do this?
I honestly, this is a position where I put myself in knowing exactly where I was going to be, the questions I would have to answer. I walked into this position knowing exactly everything that comes with it in the past was going to be thrown right on me. I know that's a thing. I say a lot of shit on my Twitter. I talk a lot of shit about left libertarians, but here I am with, I don't know where Rose stands, but at least two left
I
libertarians.
wanted to get to that, actually. I had some questions about the
at least
left
two left libertarians.
Thing,
I think that, like, I like to have conversations on my personal page. And, what I say there generally is my personal opinion. Sometimes my personal opinions will, go into the official LPNH page too. And sometimes people don't agree with it, but largely, I mostly carry like the actual libertarian opinion on something into that, especially for war stuff and, actual, like, for instance, like I had made a post a while back on like juror nullification. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's a lot of like baggage that comes with all of this, but and while I don't necessarily agree with every single post that's ever happened, I think generally like my comp scene is very good at what they do. And I think that a couple of the ones that maybe slipped out a couple times weigh down a lot of the positive shit we're doing. So overall, I think that you could probably look more to my personal page for my opinions, but even then I troll a lot. Like, I talk a lot of shit on Twitter, and I will go talk a lot of shit to somebody on Twitter and then go spend an entire week with someone at PorkFest, and we're having a great time. Like, we're best friends. Like, this is just how I fucking act.
But this is like inverted, right? Because like you're
right,
saying you want your real opinion on your page, and that you're letting basically whatever happen on a professional. That's
not even true though. Like, so here's the thing: is like, I came into this, I kind of like, I know what I'm getting into. Like, we have a very diverse social media team, a lot of people. And, we have certain things that we've agreed to, work on together. If there's issues that arise, we handle it in-house. We don't make it public. I'm not going to bring a, say again.
Can we get an idea of what diverse means? Can we get an idea of what we is?
No, because I can't talk about who's on my comms team. I'm not going to do
that. I'm not saying mention any names. I'm saying you mentioned there is diversity. What kind of diversity are you talking about?
There's you'll see, like, it literally, the LPNH page occasionally looks schizophrenic. We'll say shit that completely looks like is different, like tweet after tweet. Like, it happens all the time. So
if I could hop in for a sec, because we were talking, or you mentioned something about how, okay, it's not your affiliate. Like, that's true. And like, I've heard people make the argument that affiliates should operate with a certain, okay, fair enough. Like, I've heard the argument affiliates should operate with a certain amount of autonomy. They should be able to message to the people that are in their immediate area.
Not to interrupt, Jake Porter, you're full of shit. Sorry, go ahead.
Ooh, spicy. So, but okay, what I'm getting at here is like, because the LPNY and the LPNH at one point even got into a brief Twitter battle, like, because we felt like, or it's called X now, whatever. Anyway, like, we felt the need to counter signal. A lot of other affiliates are feeling like they have to counter signal because they're afraid of being associated with the LPNH, because that's, I mean, you guys brag
I'm equally
about
afraid to be associated with LP Louisiana, by the way. They're terrifying people. Jeremiah Harding is scary as fuck. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I don't associate with homeless people very often, so sorry.
Right. So
nice.
Yeah. It's you should probably debate ideas, man.
Genuinely afraid to be associated with the Libertarian Party because if the LPNH is the most well-known account, like, they're understandably worried about their professional reputations. Like, I've heard of at least one person who was fired from a job because their employers found out they were a member of the Libertarian Party. They did a little bit of searching, and the LPNH was what came up, and they thought that their employee was part of a hate group or something. Like, there are people who are afraid of, like, what's being done in their name. So, like, I guess you can say like, oh, it's really not your business because it's not your affiliate, but it kind of is.
I understand.
Because if you're damaging the reputation of libertarians in general, like that becomes a problem.
I do understand, like, we're part of like a national like agreement here. We have a region, we're part of, you know, the National Libertarian Party. We participate in that. And like truly, like, we've had really good productive discussions with, you know, the chair, with Paul Dar, you know, with, you know, the comms director, of what we can do to like maybe, you know, work out some of the differences.
Can you mean Brian McWilliams has his own set of issues?
I'm not going to devolve what is said in those private meetings, because those are just private between us. But I will say that, like, we have come to, you know, personal agreements with people on the LNC that, you know, and one of those things actually that was talked about, we released in a letter that we would agree to do certain things and not, you know,
that you didn't
call people certain things if they don't do certain things. Like call for our disaffiliation,
which
stuff like that. But as soon as those things happen, which by the way, we've kind of always adopted this role, but if like you go after LPNH, we have a role, like you can clap back. Like it doesn't, I don't care if LPNH page claps back at somebody if they're just being unnecessarily problematic. I honestly, like, sometimes it's necessary. So.
Yeah, it's
the letter, the infamous letter,
which was a good faith letter, Sarah. That Sarah,
it was a good faith letter that you immediately violated, and you continue to violate. You just attacked me yesterday.
I would love to see how you think we violated it, where we fired the first shot, if there was one. I would love to see
shot. You guys are a political party. There's no room for egos in this.
I don't care. Like
read the comments, man. Read the room. Is this a high school beef? Can we highlight that for a little while?
It's okay to call out people who aren't libertarians and talk shit about them, one. And two,
because you don't want them to become libertarians, Ben.
That's not actually true.
Why do you do it?
That's not even true at all.
What's being accomplished?
What's being accomplished? We're doing a lot of real life shit. Like, have you been to any of the events we've done? We've done like 5 or 6 events, and you get an email every time I book one. We have an event coming up. We just had a membership committee this last week.
I'm also a DJ. I'm an event promoter. I don't consider that any kind of political progress.
Okay. That's fine.
So,
well, you could have come to our membership committee meeting and helped us organize our membership list, make phone calls.
I have volunteered to do so.
Well, you didn't show up.
Amanda brings up a point here. The letter said that if nobody called you a racist, you wouldn't post racist tweets, and that means that you can post racist tweets, and the minute somebody calls you out on it, you have some legitimacy associated with it. And this is what it looked like from the outset, right? Is that this is what had happened. And it kind of breeds to this idea that there has been this, you know, kind of pretending like you guys aren't doing something on purpose, right? And I know you bring up Jeremy, right? But I'm going to bring up his comment here where he's saying, you know, you bring on these people. Likely some of them are probably on your comms committees. And
I don't even know
Justin
this
Keith,
guy. He's not even, I don't even know if like he might be a member.
He's a member and he spoke at that, and you guys quote tweet Justin Keith all the time. The same guy, you know, he puts libertarian in his thing, but then says, hey, if somebody's in my neighborhood and they're doing crack, you know, I'm going to be burning the house down, right? Like people that are willing to not only not follow property norms because he thinks he can control a community, but then also if somebody came in and did crack that was another race or whatever, that he would light the house on fire. Why is a party that's supposed to be libertarian quote tweeting these people, especially as they are, you know, going out there? And I think it comes to this idea that there is that 14 words thing that happened out there, and it looks automatically like a dog whistle. But as libertarians,
that is a ridiculous
thing.
Let
me finish. Let me finish this. You know, the libertarian idea is that we might be able to redefine words, redefine things, and change the meanings of that, and that's fine. The problem is the people that it's associated with are very much promoting things that go along with the original 14 words. It'd be very different if that statement went from an organization that was like, liberate people and do this and do that, and we are subverting this language. But they don't. It's not a subversion of the language. It's a hey, this is what we believe in. but we're going to skew it so it becomes a little more socially acceptable and kind of push this Overton window about where we can become political through these ideas. And it's very clearly done, and they write about it themselves. You can go into their own writing, the people that talk about it, right?
I think that it's actually clever to take some of those things and repurpose them and make them libertarian. I think it's okay.
White supremacy is okay. You're just going to be like, hey, let's
no,
have some white
dude.
supremacy.
What is like white supremacist about like anything? Like we change the word to fucking libertarian. Reread the fucking sentence and take it for what it means. We're not fucking white supremacists. I had nothing to do with that shit.
So I would agree with that. Like, yeah, it's good to repurpose things, but I think, okay. So what's this about this like N of one person that you guys have apparently, I guess, published ads for your convention, and then, from what I understand, had a meeting with them recently? Like, because I think, okay, I'd be okay with repurposing things, but like it from the looks of it, you guys are potentially working with actual authoritarian right-wingers.
Anybody is allowed, at least up till this point, has been allowed to put an advertisement in our flyer. We sell that space and we give it to people. I don't think there's actually anything wrong with, especially with it, change to the word libertarian. I think that is like, I think it's funny. It's a play on words, and we're taking it and making it mean something completely different.
Right.
We're just taking
if it was
the words
a
for what they are.
libertarian group, it's just like, so there's no vetting of like who you'll promote, because
like we'll promote businesses.
I gotta side with
to get a foot in the
I gotta
door.
side with Ben on this
if
one.
If we had sex workers, they could put a
with
ad for their work in our convention pamphlet. I don't give a fuck. Like, we're getting money as a party.
I would have gone down swinging to make sure that didn't happen in North Carolina, because it wouldn't work here. But like, that's more of a New Hampshire issue.
Sure,
to me, at least.
It probably is a New Hampshire issue, but like, there's like, I know the person who did that, and they're not fucking white supremacists at all. They just think it's hilarious.
So I'm saying, like, yeah, that's your call. That's over there. It doesn't. I mean, I get why people are reacting. It looks bad playing into the larger issues, but for me, the larger issues are very much the far more public stuff that has come out. That really,
I think that you have a good argument to talk about. Like when we talk about like racial eugenics and biology stuff, I think you can have a good libertarian argument, on your side, to say like, like, I understand why people would be upset over the Nina Turner tweet. Like, I get all that. And, truly, a lot of that stuff happened before I was chair too. There's been a little bit of the, racial stuff since I became chair. But, like, we as a committee have been working on a social media policy, been working to have it, implemented for over 2 years here. And I was hoping that, like, it would basically provide a framework to work inside of. I'm not sure if it's actually going to do anything at all, but I feel like the only thing you can do is really just put it out there. If people adhere to it, that's going to be cool. The thing is that, like, I'm friends with a lot of people you guys just don't like, that are making the tweets that you just don't like. These guys are people that are like in my backyard practically, that, I talk to, I hang out with, that are like really good people and really good libertarians. They do a lot of real life activism outside of LPNH too. They're people that, like, I consider friends. And I don't think that anybody that's posting anything on LPNH is, one, a legitimate white supremacist or racist whatsoever. I think that they're just trying to have the conversation. And we have these, discussions in-house as well. But I completely understand why people would, take offense to it. But I do think that it is productive for us to have conversations about it at the very least. It's not just like go on full attack mode and like say like, oh, you're racist, you're bigots. Like, we would like to actually have like spaces, maybe conversations where we can hash out ideas publicly, even where, we all like kind of figure out what's, the thing with libertarians is like, we'll never agree on any of these topics fully. So
How do you not know the difference between personal messaging and party messaging? How are people arguing that it's unlibertarian to police speech when libertarianism, as the LNC, as a party, is literally a brand?
Okay.
This is brand marketing. Brand marketing for the purpose of the brand should take precedence over
always
the
will
free
have a
speech of
spin.
the people who work for the LNC. They are not
always
individual
put the personal
actors.
Spin on their messaging, even when they're acting through an affiliate. It does not matter
and
what
that's
state
and
you
that's
look at.
fine. And that's fine. But we're not talking about a personal spin.
So, but that's the key. So you said no one's white supremacist. Fine, I'll believe you on that. But I think there's one person who is a bigger narcissist than Donald Trump, who puts a lot of effort into creating messaging that is going to trigger as many people as possible.
I do think that engagement is
it's nihilistic. He doesn't care what happens.
There was like discussion several years back, and I honestly, like, this is all like way in the past, and I'm not talking about anything that's not, it was confidential or anything like that. But, about like monetizing the Twitter and stuff, I thought it could be a bad thing to try to, it basically make things go into, we're just trying to get engagement and get money. It really hasn't really changed anything or done more of that. But I do understand your point where, a lot of this stuff is meant to trigger a reaction because it does drive engagement and brings people to our page. But it also generates a lot of discussion. And I will say that, like, say what you want. Our membership is consistently going up, and it's not people like you don't like, let's say Jeremy Kauffman. They're not all people like that. It's more so people like me and you and Rob and Phil that are joining the party. They're just maybe even new to libertarian. We have a lot of people joining right now. We went up in membership last week by like almost 10%. It was crazy.
Well, if you switch the messaging of libertarianism to like we must protect Western culture, then of course you're going to get a lot of people joining, right? But that is not what libertarianism means, and it's being skewed in this like this is the only way to do it. When in reality, libertarian would argue that culture is in the free market, and that any culture worth surviving will do so by propagating itself and defending itself from invasion or whatever. Not this like we must tear down others and promote ours.
I see that it brings people in that
racism, stay for the right-wing socialism.
It's crazy.
Message, I feel like, should be viewed as something that is potentially going to recruit people. So, okay, like in the short term, you might get more members, but are you really messaging to the right people? Like, are you bringing in people who are ultimately going to help the cause of liberty? Or are they people who like some of your ideas, and they like the idea of liberty for themselves, but they're ultimately
Rose, can I interrupt real quick? And you should invite your wife on.
Hey, she can come on with the baby.
Sorry, Rose. I apologize.
I had the baby on for mic check. Yeah, like I kind of got lost there, but thanks, Rob. Appreciate that. I was trying to hear what Rose was asking.
Sorry, she's putting comments up, and I'm like, she's knocking it out of the park.
All right.
So the reason I wanted to reach out and get you on, and I appreciate you coming on, and we get along. I'm probably more in your corner than a lot of the people in the comments. You all are capable of clever messaging, and I see how much good you could do for the party. And it's like so much of that good. And I know it's not, since you've been chair, it's certainly been much more toned down, but there is this historical baggage, and I would love to see like a concerted effort to go in a direction that like you help the rising tide lift all boats, because you really could. Like, you could really be a force for good and really drive liberty, not just in North Carolina, or not just in New Hampshire, sorry, but in North Carolina and in all the other states, in New York, wherever it may be. Like you have the focus, the attention worked. The Voldemort is very good at the attention economy. Okay, so you've got it. Like, you could do some awesome things with it.
So as chair, I have a lot of goals. I have a 2-year plan that I have established, which I am 3 months in, but I've gotten over 6 months worth of shit done already, which is great. There's a lot of stuff I have not been able to implement yet. Some stuff that might be impossible to implement, but I know that we do a lot of good, and we have the potential to define libertarianism to a lot of people. We have a lot of reach. And I do want to make the most of that opportunity. And I'm hoping that through a lot of the really good stuff that we're doing, not just Twitter, like Twitter is such a small part of what LPNH is. Like it really isn't it isn't what like defines us. Like we have a Twitter account, but that's not, we're not like some social. You would think that we're a social club unless we actually participate in the political activities. But we're doing a lot of like real world, really good stuff, writing legislation being passed to state reps to hopefully get passed that also happen to be LPNH members. You know, and we're planning to run a shit ton of fucking candidates over the next year. And like people, like I'm really hoping that a lot of this good stuff that we're doing maybe overshadow some of the negativity that people have for us. It probably won't, but you know, it's at least for me, like I'd like for us to at least be functional and do some political party shit instead of, you know, just talk about it. Cause I feel like a lot of libertarians just talk about it. So
it certainly could. I would love to see that. If you send it out, I would promote it in North Carolina, but I got to agree with Sarah a little bit here. Like I think of Planned Parenthood. What does Planned Parenthood do? They're an abortion organization, right? That's like 3% of their whole business, but that's what Planned Parenthood
Planned Parenthood is actually more about prophylactic than abortion surgeries.
But they're an abortion organization.
They're
Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger started them.
Yes, I'm familiar with the history and right.
And so that's the similar with LPNH. Like,
yeah, I see where you're going with that.
It overshadows
I see where
everything.
You're going with that, yeah.
I understand that the negativity and all the stuff that, you know, comes with it might overshadow some of the good, but there is still good out there that's happening. No matter what,
such as,
you know, people that aren't participating, like, you know, members that aren't participating, care to say. So,
such as,
we just, like I said, we just had a membership committee this week to plan 2 events, which are going to be fantastic, but also to go through our membership list, organize it, go through every town and figure out where we have members. And I'm literally going to start making emails and phone calls and text messages within the next week to try to get people to run for
political
races.
Strategy. Do you bring anything new to the
table? That's just how many fucking political state LP affiliates aren't doing it.
When you're running for chair, you have to tell me why your technique is better than the other guys.
Because it hasn't fucking happened in 5 years. That's why. I'm the only one that's actually
putting
fucking
this on.
I'm saying that, like, I joined the Mises Caucus originally way back in the day because they had the motto, take human action. And that spoke to me. All right. I'm not in the Mises Caucus. I have not been for multiple years. I got, you know, kicked out or whatever. However, like, I believe that the only way as an anarchist that real life shit's going to happen, it's not going to be from complaining on the internet. It's not going to be from tweeting through an LP affiliate account. All right. It's going to be through going out and meeting people where they are and trying to figure out how.
You just made the argument.
But
the point of the Twitter account is to do just that.
No,
to bring
it's
people
not.
in, the people who share your values.
Twitter is not a main way to reach people. You go out and meet people in real life. That's how you reach people. Twitter is like such like a you know, how many followers you have. None of that shit fucking matters.
That's a I don't know, like of course it matters. Of course,
it fucking doesn't. I don't care that we have 94,000 or if we had 5,000 followers.
Entire strategy, even here specifically in New Hampshire, it was on the front page of the Union Leader the next day.
You want to know what else was on the Union Leader a year and a half ago? We did a police gun buyback outside the police station. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire hosted a police gun buyback where we stood outside the police station.
And that was awesome. Why can't we get more of that? That was so great.
I don't actually agree with that.
Yeah, we need more of that.
No, we don't need more of that.
That could get us in the news, and yeah, like that. That might actually get some attention.
It did get attention. It went viral. We had a video that got like lots of views. It was great. But like this also went in the newspaper too. Like these are
the same thing. I mean, you want things that get like positive attention, I think. But like, do you think that maybe some of the more controversial tweets that make libertarians look like a bunch of racists are going to overshadow some of the good messaging you get from doing things like the police buyback or some of the more controversial anti-war posts.
I don't believe that any single person in this call right now is a racist at all either. And I think that you guys could all...
I'm pretty racist.
Well, okay, I'm not really fond of white people. We suck at making food. I've already discussed this. Okay, we're really bad at making food. Okay, my wife is Italian. She's basically like a black white, and she makes really good food. But like, she's still white. She's one of the only ones that I've met that makes legitimately good food. Okay. I digress.
You know, Italians are only white.
Right? I think that everyone here can probably, you know, if anyone met you guys in real life, it's not hard to tell that you're not like racist. And I think that you guys can all defend the position of libertarianism and defend yourself from tweets that you might disagree with.
It's hard, man. It's hard. My boss is from New Hampshire. And at one point, like, I was like, I have to distance myself from this. Right. And then I realized that this was the goal. This was the goal that's out there, is that somebody like me there's a group faction within the party that wants somebody like me out of the party. Right. And so then I had to be like, they don't represent me.
They have stated that explicitly. Jeremy and Ben have stated explicitly, individually, and on the LPNH account that they are micro-targeting. That's exactly what they're doing. And that anyone
I've said that I've micro-targeted people.
Free to go.
When the fuck did I say that?
Well, it's more of I think it's more of like an anti-targeting. It's like you're going to target anybody that might have a different worldview than you. Right, like the idea that like you might attack somebody, like Chase brought up here, like, you know, it's like an honest answer, like why did the LPNH account call him a slur, and is that a part of official policy when you're looking at somebody else in the party to do that? But that's a negative targeting. You're trying to say, hey, if you have this identity trait, this collective, we are going to push you away and make you uncomfortable, when that's not whatever it's supposed to be. You don't have to sit here and be like, I'm going to carry a pride flag, but you don't have to also be toxic towards somebody that lives a different life than you. In the same way, I'm not toxic against people that are religious, right? I think some religious behavior is abusive to child psyche. But you don't see me attacking and making a shitstorm if a libertarian party says we must defend religious rights, because I'm willing to go to bat for either of these things that I'm not related to at all. Right. And I think that's what we need more of than this, like, we're going to attack one to promote the other. And it seems like it's been consistent, and it does affect more than just that. Yes, I can defend myself, but it's a really hard conversation to have with your boss.
I know. And I honestly, like I said, like it might be an awkward conversation to have. You know, I'll say, like, I don't really like, okay. What the fuck did she just say?
Well, here, I got to jump in here because I want to take it a slightly different direction, and this might put you on the spot more than I was.
I think that fascists and socialists should be gatekept too, but I also think that only anarchists are real libertarians. I think
we should change their minds.
But people who aren't anarchists shouldn't be in the Libertarian Party. So that's how I feel.
Would we be having this conversation if the one person whose name I'm not going to mention was not involved with the social team anymore?
Maybe, actually. So, because you guys don't know who makes out the fucking tweets, so it's really kind of comical, and it's shitty to have all the blame on one person. But
so somebody did like a dragnet for IPs associated with that account. You think people aren't going to find out who actually operates it?
Fucking send it. Go for it. I don't give a fuck.
No, but
I'm saying, isn't that the whole point of the secret committee? The secret committee?
No, like, it's not about secrecy. It's about, like, we handle things in house. And we operate as an organization. We understand that we have the organization's name behind us in what we say. Sometimes we fuck that up. Sometimes we drop the ball. But, like, when we do that, we handle it in-house. And we're not going to, like, drag names to the mud and release them publicly or kick people off of committees because we disagree with them. We are 100% free speech absolutists. And I do think that any topic is on the table when it comes to discussing them, even through Libertarian Party affiliate pages. People don't want to hear that.
That is not marketing. Work product.
It's not your marketing. It might be someone else's version of marketing. By definition,
work product is not marketing.
Okay, so you agree that the Twitter account is not
marketing.
So you agree that the Twitter accounts are not the best way to go and find people. I'm glad we can come to that finally.
I believe that they are.
So I think
that they are.
Amanda keeps bringing up a good point, which kind of helps get us back to a question I wanted to ask. Because at one
by the way, I love the Emma Goldman comments. She's the shit. She's one of my favorite anarchists to ever live.
She was the first anarchist theorist
doesn't
that
surprise
I ever
me.
read back in high school when I was like 15. First bit of anarchist literature I ever read was the autobiography of Emma Goldman. So, because I think you had a tweet at one point saying that left libertarians should be purged from the party. Now, okay, that really depends on how you're defining left versus right. But then, yeah, you answered that meme where you were supposed to list your most, who you were most inspired by, and Emma Goldman was one of them. So,
Yeah.
like, in the modern libertarian party, do you think that there's not a place for people like Emma Goldman or some of the more left-leaning libertarians?
I believe, now, this is a cliche, and, you know, it might contradict some things that I say on Twitter. The Libertarian Party is a big tent party. And I believe that there's room for a lot of voices. And what I see a lot of times is that the left side tries to cancel the right side and send cancel mobs at them for saying things they don't agree with. The right side, when the left side says things they don't agree with, I don't see it as much. I think it happens, but I don't see it as much. So,
you're kidding, right?
I think
Angela McCardle just spread a rumor today that I was rude to her at PorkFest. I've never attended PorkFest.
That's why you're not a real libertarian, Sarah.
Of course.
You've never
hey,
met
that's offensive.
You know what? You know what? I asked
for
for that.
Can't travel easily.
I did. I asked for that.
Even though you're like a couple states away. I mean, I see it on both sides. I see both the right and left anarchists claiming that the other are not real anarchists. I mean, I think that there's room for both. Okay, you can support markets, you can support voluntary communes with voluntary gift economies, but I think a lot of people, when they say left libertarian, they really mean the people who are more like the more statist types who are leaning towards the Democrat side, as opposed to the types who are leaning more towards the Republican side. But people tend to really get warped with what they are when they mean left libertarian. Like, a lot of people think that, oh, if you display a rainbow flag on your social media page, that means you're a left libertarian, which is inaccurate. Like, I think left libertarian, I think more of the economic stuff, like economic collectivism versus economic free markets. That
I think so. Yeah, like here's kind of like my overall thought process on this. And like, people don't really like my opinion maybe, but I don't care. That's fine. This is just my opinion. I'm not like speaking on behalf of the LP or LPNH or LNC or anything. I'm just telling you this is me. I do not believe that most libertarian ideas are popular with everybody. And I believe that Democrat lights and Republican lights don't belong in the party. Okay. I believe that they should go and find another place to go, because really I truly believe the only real anarchists or the only real libertarians are anarchists. So I don't think that you can be a libertarian and believe in any form of government whatsoever. I'll argue that with Rob another day. Okay. That's another.
Yeah,
we'll have a debate someday. Anarchy versus minarchy. It's not going to be fun, and it's going to be a worthless conversation. But that's just truth. But like, I don't believe the Libertarian Party needs to be all inclusive. I don't believe that we need to be non-offensive, and I don't think that our ideas are popular. I posted about this earlier. I think that there's certain things, like talking about like not having taxes, that scares the shit out of people. Talking about abolishing all gun regulations, that scares the shit out of people. How the fuck are we going to have roads? Like this is like.
Can I make?
So why do you need racism then? Well, that's not controversial enough. Like,
okay, let me finish my point really quick. Let me finish my point real quick. So, like, I think that libertarians should be able to embrace those ideas. You know, like that our ideas are not popular. I don't think that we should be aiming to appease 97% of people. And I do believe that our market for people is less than 2% of all people. I do not think that the majority of Americans resonate with libertarianism. Okay.
We have had higher.
So that means by default, there's a lot of people in the party that are participating because they just wanted another option. Maybe a lot of people vote libertarian just because they had nothing else to vote for. At that point, they already got let down by everybody else, so they just send it. But like, I really don't think that you know, those people are compatible with libertarianism. So, you know, I fucking talked a lot of shit about RFK last year. I took a lot of shit from the right-wing libertarianism, and I got a lot of support from the left-wing libertarians when I went off on RFK. Okay. And I stand by every fucking word that I said when I was going against Maha and all that. And I'll continue to do so. But, you know, I can say, you know, an equal amount of shit again about, you know, left-wing libertarianism, because a lot of these people are just bringing in ideas that come from. I'm gonna fight with that.
I thought I'd bring that up.
Oh,
I honestly, she says
you're
that,
in trouble, dude.
But like, really, we're probably just gonna mud wrestle. I know me and Phil were supposed to tonight. It just didn't happen that way. So, but like
really would help our ratings, I think. we're planning on introducing mud wrestling at some point on these streams. So.
I got a shit ton of mud outside, man. It just rained today.
So
bring it.
I do. I know you have this idea that it's not popular, right? And you know, there's always a question of how do you do this politically? And I think really we are stuck in a situation where you have to do things pragmatically through incrementalism, and I'm fine with that. It's the reason why I say, hey, if you're actually supporting like regular Ron Paul Republicans or Ron Paul libertarians, okay, right? But that's not what the main goal is. But I will say, I've dealt now, after the advent of Trump, I'm having conversations on university campuses in the middle of liberal cities about how they should buy AR-15s, right? And for the first time ever, they have now feared that government authority is going to come in, hurt them, hurt their communities. This is the time that we should be able to reach out to them. And the same time, the discussions of taxation, I've had the arguments with them of like, look, if you didn't force these on people, you could voluntarily fund whatever you want in your own communities, and you could get better services, better social safety nets, better agreements. But if it's done voluntary, you guys could do whatever you want. It could be completely ad hoc or whatever. And so there are ways that you can broach these conversations on both the left and the right, and doing that is
this is apologetics. This is what apologetics is. Okay, like a lot of people might not know this about me. I spent 2 years as a Baptist missionary when I was 20. Okay. And something that you learn when you're talking to people about God and stuff is, you know, you need to like learn how to first like humanize yourself. You're not like talking like holier than thou to somebody, right? A lot of libertarians do that when they're talking to people about libertarianism. But it's about learning how to talk to people. And, you know, like if you're a Baptist missionary talking to someone's like, oh, like, so did you, you know, do you think that you've ever sinned? Do you think that, you know, do you believe in God? Stuff like this, you know, just try to figure, like, gauge them out, feel them out. Libertarians, like, for me, like, I have the Emo Caucus and Punks for Liberty, and I think a great venue for that for myself, this is my niche, is through music. So, you know, going to shows, we're already in a community where everyone kind of feels safe together. We all feel like family. After the shows, we talk a lot of politics, and, you know, people come up to me, point at my vest and say, oh, don't tell me you're one of those anarcho-capitalists. And I'm like, oh, don't tell me you're one of those anarcho-communists. And like, we can have those conversations, you know, after a show. It's all fun, you know, but we're having these discussions in good faith. No one's fighting. No one's arguing. When libertarians try to talk to people, a lot of times we're talking to people that are already in a political space. And we can go to gun shows maybe and try to like promote to, you know, people who want to abolish all gun regulations like me. But we're going to end up bringing in a lot of people that have a lot of baggage, and they might not want to get rid of all that. So if they come into the party, they realize that maybe this isn't the place for them. We should be able to tell them to get the fuck back out. All right. Like, we need to have some kind of gatekeeping mechanism. And I think the same thing happens on the left. I think that there's like, you know, we'll go to like, I don't know, like this is a hypothetical, maybe let's say like a pride event. This was happening a lot, or the No Kings protests. There's gonna be a lot of people that like resonate with us because like we kind of like amplify that message of, you know, we don't want, you know, the government to rule us and stuff like that. Well, like they're going to come into this and be like, well, I didn't really mean it like that. I didn't really want like no kings. I just didn't want Trump to be in charge of me. we should be able to tell them, okay, like if you don't want to like learn and adapt, like you don't belong here. Why are you still paying $25 a year to be in the party? Get the fuck out. Like this is a normal thing and it's happening all over the party on both sides. There's people that don't belong here. And like, we need to have some kind of mechanism. And I'm not saying purge people either, but we should encourage them to leave.
Yeah, I mean, there's social ostracism, right? And I think that's what people in LPNH need to have done to them, right? They should be ostracized out of Liberty Space because of the damage that's been done so far with their messaging. Again, personal accounts, there's bad people in the Democrats and Republicans. You don't often give them a microphone and promote it. So I'm not necessarily saying that hey, you shouldn't have within the party apparatus structure some ideological gatekeeping. I don't necessarily think that's a horrible idea. The problem is it'll get weaponized by bad actors like we already saw before, right? We've seen people get purged out of things and all this other stuff.
The problem is that Jeremy and Ben are the bad actors. Sorry, Ben.
Okay, I've never done anything that would make me someone that you could consider a bad actor.
You are
like, I'm sorry, but like
Jeremy, I'm sorry, but you have not. It's been 45 minutes and you still have not answered my question about how much accountability you think you should take.
I take all the fucking accountability. I'm the chair. Like I'm like this is my
Ben did
comms.
say that.
This
He
is
said
my comms committee. Like if you have someone to blame me. I'll take it. I take heat on Twitter. I'm taking heat in the comments. I don't care. I brush this shit off. Like truly, like a lot of New Hampshire comm stuff. Like if people are really adamant about things to change, they should recruit, and just like it happened a couple years ago, swing it the other direction. Okay. The problem is that like that doesn't happen. There's not a lot of people that even care at all. In fact, most of the members in New Hampshire, they just don't want to have the all-inclusive messaging style. So they'll stay with Jeremy.
Yeah. Correlation and causation.
No, but this is so relevant. This is so relevant because, like that's kind of what the convention came down to. Do you want to have like an all-inclusive, non-offensive, popular libertarianism messaging that just includes everybody and isn't offensive? Nobody fucking wanted that.
That's not what anyone thinks. That's an identitarian position, and that's what.
And I did not run to bring any of that shit into the party. So if you don't have that,
you're benefit from it. And okay, Rob is correct that I guess you did take responsibility. I must have missed it, but you are not opposing it.
Right.
So look.
Well, this goes to the question I asked.
I've been in groups where I've acted as the lightning rod too. I get that. Okay. But that doesn't tell us what you actually think. That just says, hey, okay, you can blame it on me, but it's going to continue. I'm not actually going to stop.
I'm not passing the puck anywhere. If you have a question of how I think about something, I'll answer you directly. What LPNH has as a committee, I'm not like, I'll speak for our organization. And I will, like, I've already said on this show, like, I don't agree with everything that gets posted. We talk about it privately, offline. And, like we say, like, how can we do better? And we figure it out. We're also working to implement some other stuff that hasn't happened yet. But, regardless, this is an in-house issue. So, like, I know people don't like to hear it. I've kind of talked to Phil about this offline.
Do you like it when the government is responsible for its own accountability?
I can't hear you.
Do you like it when the government is responsible for its own accountability? How do you feel about that?
Well, the government's never going to be accountable to anything.
So what makes what you're doing any different? Why are you acting like the government?
If you think that I should be held accountable, then vote me out the next convention.
I think we can only hold you accountable because we don't know who's on the social media team, which again correlates to the exact same issue on the LNC right now.
If you want to hold me accountable, judge me for the comms stuff, okay? But you should come to some of the events. Come to some of the events. You are welcome at all the events. Come to some membership committee meetings. Help us actually do some work. Like, it's so rich to see people complain when they haven't lifted a finger to actually participate in anything.
You don't make people feel welcome.
Yeah, the goal is to make somebody like Sarah feel unwelcome, and has been expressly said that way multiple times.
And I don't feel unwelcome because I don't give a shit.
You would have been just fine sitting in our membership committee meeting this week. You will be just fine coming to our our potluck.
You guys tried to decredential me at the convention.
Yeah, I was one of the people that voted for you. You're the only person that I voted against. How does that feel?
I'm the only person that you voted
against. You're the only person. I said, let's credential everybody. I don't want her to be a delegate.
Really? And why was that?
Because I don't think you're a libertarian.
Because you don't think.
Because I don't think you're a libertarian.
I don't think so. You meet the requirements to be credentialed, but I don't think
you didn't meet the requirements to be credentialed because you didn't make the cutoff time to be credentialed.
I most certainly did.
No,
and
you did not. And then you ended up being credentialed anyways, and because
there were
a different name,
but on the time frame.
You're literally a socialist. You don't belong in the Libertarian Party.
Really? Okay? Libertarian market socialism exists.
You are a socialist, and you don't belong in the Libertarian Party.
Thank you for.
Well, hold on. I gotta jump in on this one because this is a separate debate.
Like,
this is a separate debate from.
Yeah, we need to have a debate between these two exclusively. I think there's some drama that needs to.
We can do libertarian socialism and then anarchism and anarchism. I gotta jump back to something you said a minute ago, Ben, that I thought was kind of interesting. You said we need to gatekeep against certain people that don't belong in the party. And I have to disagree with that vehemently. I think that if we stay principled, we are gatekeeping against people that don't belong in the party, and we need to put no more effort into that. As soon as you put effort into gatekeeping, you're choosing the people you think should be in the party, and that leads to some dangerous outcomes. But if we stick to our principles and don't bend, then people that don't belong in the party will leave the party.
Okay, you have every right. And I truthfully, I'm not interested in putting work towards purging people or actually, trying to get people to leave. That's not something that I'm focused on. I'm focused on way more important shit than that. But I do think there can be mechanisms in place to prevent people from being members, because a lot of affiliates, and even on the national level, we don't have a way to cancel people's membership and kick them out. Like, for instance, there's convicted pedophiles that are National Libertarian Party members. They've been wanting to get kicked out of the party for a very long time, and there's no provision for them to do so. This is an extreme situation, but obviously no one would disagree that those people shouldn't be in the Libertarian Party. People who have been convicted of things where they have violated the NAP, they don't belong in the Libertarian Party.
That there's basically no mechanism for removing people from the party who probably should be removed, just because, again, the bylaws are not designed in such a way that people can be removed if necessary. But I mean, I think the biggest objection to that is that, your party probably would have been disaffiliated a long time ago if such bylaws existed.
I'm actively working to keep it from getting disaffiliated. We have no interest in cutting ties with the national party. We're trying to, play ball, and we're having really good, productive conversations to try to, mitigate some of the conflicts that have arisen. And
I challenge everyone here to
I've heard supposedly, conversations are happening.
Say that again, Rose.
Right. So from what I understand, supposedly conversations are happening between the LPNH and the chair of the party. So, I know these are private, so I'm not going to ask what's being said, but do you think that this is something that can be resolved?
No.
Okay.
Just be honest. I think that I'm doing my best, and I think that there are different interests in general. We, like I said, we're New Hampshire first. We care about ourselves more than we care about the national party, for sure. I'm speaking as LPNH chair right now. I'm going to speak as LNC person now. I think that, we need to consider that, there's no perfect solution here that doesn't end in one side or the other just fucking going apeshit and leaving. Okay. And potentially another situation where there's a lot of lawsuits involved. And the LNC can't afford even one lawsuit right now. So that's a terrible situation. But, just speaking truthfully, I feel like it's not in the best interest for the LNC or people in the broader Libertarian Party to want LPNH to be disaffiliated. I think that we should continue to hash out our ideas, maybe publicly, affiliate to affiliate on a spaces, do something like that. I think that would be fun. I think that would be like a productive conversation similar to what we're doing here. Because like, even after this, like I could get along with any of you guys. Even if I don't want Sarah to be, in the LP, I think she should come to Porkfest.
What about Brandy? Will you still be able to get along with her?
So that okay, let me touch on that. So
look, me
and Brandy don't actually agree on everything, believe it or not.
Was this minarchist, and you can convert them eventually.
Me and Brandy don't agree on everything, and I'm not going to speak for her.
Why'd you call Chase a faggot?
I didn't say anything about that.
That's what the comments are saying.
When did I do that, Chase? I had you on my show. We've talked in person. If you're talking about the LPNH account,
they've been asking you in the chat to answer this question for about an hour.
Okay.
We have a lot of comments to catch up on. I'm hoping we can get to more of the comments.
And it was before Ben was chair. Like I can't. I know people are all mad at LPNH, and now you represent New Hampshire, so you're carrying some baggage.
Very
but I
disingenuous,
can't put everything that happened before
I have
objections sustained. I'll rephrase. Do you stand by the comment?
The comment that Chase Oliver is a faggot.
Correct.
That's the comment you want me to stand by.
Do you?
So I think that Chase Oliver and I have had great conversations. I have a lot of family that is homosexual, and I don't think any differently of them than I think of any of you.
And would you post that today? Do you think that's proper?
I don't call people faggots unless they're faggots. So and I actually which is never, by the way. So,
that clears everything up. Thanks, Ben.
I don't it's not something that
that last part was kind of important. Maybe you should have led with that.
Literally not in my vocabulary. So but I'll say that
we're talking loud, annoying Harley motorcycle.
I think a more proper word would have been bitch.
I use bitch. I
think that's a more proper word, probably. To be honest, I think that would have been a better word to use than faggot. I think bitch is a better word than faggot.
I'm not here.
Chase Oliver was being a bitch.
Chase can decide how.
Calling for LPNH to be disaffiliated, that's a bitch move, and it's cowardly and it's stupid. So
right. So look, I'm of the opinion that you should be focused on your state affiliate. Like the LPNY is kind of trying to focus on because electoral solutions in a state like New York are probably not going to do much for us in the short term. So we're trying to focus more on activism and direct action. Like I think state affiliates should be focused on themselves. Like I've been saying for a long time, we just want a national party that we can safely ignore and that will not be destroying the public image of libertarians.
That's a great.
However, like I think that there need to be some type of standards to ensure that one state affiliate is not destroying the public image of all the other affiliates. And that's what people are concerned about with certain affiliates, such as the LPNH.
I really don't. I think that people really need to understand the broader situation that the LNC is in and the LP National's in, and understand that disaffiliating is not currently on the table. So what are you doing to improvise and compensate for what you believe to be a net negative to make it something that's net positive?
I mean, maybe I'll comment on that. I mean, we're LP Alliance, right? We have vastly different views of libertarianism. Right?
Clearly, you guys are arguing amongst yourself too. So yeah, it's great.
We do that.
Yeah, and we get along. We continue it. There's times where me and Sarah have literally been in a comment section completely disagreeing, and then at the end of it, being like, "Well, we agree to disagree." And then it's like, but we're still working together. We're still moving forward. And so the idea is that there should be some things that, we can be disagreeing on and be fine and still work together. And so my worry is that LPNH represents the opposite of that, right? As it is currently, or at least that's been the stated strategy of people that have been running it, is that it is only this one. And the way I look at it, and I said this before we got on, is that the march of authoritarianism is getting quicker in its steps. Right. And now it's incorporating new weapons like AI modified, spying on our citizens. And so at what point does it go, hey, there's some small cultural differences. Maybe you interpret liberty slightly differently. But, we're going to work together and try to stop this thing. make it more popular among regular people, everybody bringing in their own groupings of people willing to work together to maybe stop it. Because if it gets to where it looks like it's going, and it has gone every time authoritarianism gets to this point, we would be the first ones put to the wall, regardless if you're left or you're right, libertarian, we would be put to a wall first.
Yes.
Right. And I think
100%.
I think ignoring that fact is damaging to the movement. And, some like I said, our express goal is to be able to work together to kind of revolutionize, revamp it entirely across the country, both internally within the party, but also how people speak to each other. These sort of confrontations that are happening now, I think, are important.
Yeah.
Because they get the ideas out there. They show where there might be some logical missteps, and also, professional missteps that might be happening. So
I mean, we did just soft launch the Torch last night. So, we're having those conversations in public, in hard copy, in black and white and black as well. We have a dark mode for those of us who are neurodivergent and don't like the lights. So
Good. I can't stand white mode.
Yeah, no kidding.
Depends on the app.
Yes, we're all neurotypicals here. But yeah, I mean, we're trying to put those conversations forward, and we're trying to put them in static locations so that they can be referenced in the future. We're not trying to do this one tweet at a time.
I kind of want to respond to what Phil said real quick. I don't want to skip over all that, and I apologize for interrupting that. But I agree with you. If someone's going to be put against the wall, it's going to be libertarians. We are extremists. Everyone knows we're extremists. This is why I always say our ideas aren't really very popular. There's not really a lot that we can do about that other than just embrace the fact that we're radicals. And I think that the Libertarian Party, like I said, it does represent a really big tent. There's going to be people I don't know, maybe Sarah writes the letters. Maybe Phil dumps the tea in the harbor, but I'm going to light the match for the Pine Tree Riot. I
feel like you have a misjudge of what type of libertarian I am.
Maybe.
Or what
maybe
our roles
that's a
are
nap
in the
violation to you, but one of you guys would dump tea in the harbor. I have no doubt about it.
Then I'll
I
let
live the
you
closest.
Yeah, I would as well. That's the part here that I'm,
But what I'm trying to say is, though, that there's, as part of a revolution, which is the Libertarian Party is basically a revolution, right? We're all radicals, we're all extremists that are fighting for a very similar general cause. And everyone has a piece and a part to play in that. So, you have people who are really good at podcasting. You have really a lot of people that are good at writing, and some people are really good at real life activism and talking to people. Well, you just during the American Revolution, you had people who let's say just wrote the Declaration of Independence. Then you had, the people who lit the match at the Pine Tree Riot, which launched the American Revolution and caused people to want to dump tea in the harbor in Boston. But the Libertarian Party is very similar. And we have very, very extreme people. And we have a lot of people who kind of just don't want to be seen. And all those people have a part to play. And I think Libertarian Party affiliates are similar in the aspect of some of them they just say things on the internet. They don't really do anything, but their words, they're a messaging campaign, right? I actually I think it's encouraging for me because the Free State Project, LPNH, we're attracting people that are interested in lighting the match. And maybe that's controversial to say, but I love having that kind of, energy around me. These people who really would, if push come to shove, we have a community that would take care of itself, but we also have a community that would stand up and do the right thing if it needed to be done. So
I think maybe I should put a distinction here. You can get plenty of people to light the match, right? You can get hardcore statist communists that are out there, saying we need to get Marxism and everything. Those people are willing to light the match, right? They want to usurp control.
I'm talking specifically about libertarians.
No, I know, but my argument is that there are other ideologies within the quote unquote liberty space, maybe that are along the pipeline from libertarianism to fascism, that maybe they'd be willing to light the match, right? Because it has to do with their culture and the idea that this is a protection of their culture and Western whatever, and white people this, right? And so that, you might have people there, but what comes up next afterwards would not look much different than another form of local tyranny, right? Based on collective aims, right?
Yep.
And so that should be something that should be talked about honestly and say, this is a problem. And certain messaging will make that problem worse. And it makes it that if it ever comes time when that match actually is done, as people are being loaded into train cars that like we're seeing now, that maybe then when you go to light the match, actually the outcome afterwards would be worse if you're messaging the way you are now. And
well, like I agree with you, but like, like as libertarians, we're, looking to promote freedom in the world, but the world itself is naturally inclined to centralize power. Like that's just how it is. So we want to decentralize power. The world as a scale, we're the extremists that fight against it, but power tends to centralize. That's why I am an anarchist and I call myself Machiavellian, because you really like as libertarians, like we all need to learn how to understand power dynamics and how to work inside of that and how to, I don't know, like I'm not going to say make friends with people in other political parties because political parties are evil. Even the Libertarian Party is way too bureaucratic, guys.
But find common ground,
but
for sure.
You find common ground.
I'm 100% with you on this. And in fact, you said, well, first, real quick, I got to give a shout out to my kids, Lex and Deck. What's up? They're watching. So, I'm indoctrinating them. They're both members of the party, nice. 17 and 10 years old. So, but you and I were actually talking about this earlier because you tweeted something earlier today about like, if you have something to complain about, fine, that's cool. But like that now go do this action or whatever. And that's how I ended the talk with Karen Ann is at the end. I was like, this is online therapy. That's cool. Now for everyone that like said something mean in the tweets, like go call a volunteer or send a letter to a representative. And I think we have lost so much of that. Like we would much rather just fight with other libertarians. But coming full circle, and the whole reason I wanted to talk to you about this, like I'm trying to convey to you like how much influence and effect your social messaging has and how much I personally have had to deal with overcoming that before I'm able to get
mine
through
as
to
in
people or to do
LPNH, not as in mine, correct? Okay.
Correct. You do whatever you want and I will die defending it.
Yeah.
I'll argue against it, but I would also do the same to defend your right to say
exactly. I might not agree with it. Yeah.
You can disagree with me. Like, and I understand if you disagree with LPNH too, but like, I just want to differentiate, like, all right, are we talking about my shit that I'm saying is coming back?
No, LPNH for sure. Because people will be like, oh, we believe in free speech. Like, this isn't a free speech issue.
The reason that you're not talking to me is because I'm not going hard enough and doing good enough job to get the attention. I think that's what the problem is. But no, like I totally like, so, it's one thing to have all this drama going on in the LNC. It's basically like, like, I don't know, if you want to watch 16-year-old girl drama, just turn on an episode of Teen Mom. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. So it's like a lot of drama that's just completely, it's necessary, but unnecessary for people to participate in. A lot of people like to harp on it and they get stuck on it. And like, they just feast on nothing but LP drama. This is their whole life. They go on Twitter and they just like to argue with people. So like my challenge to people is basically like, if you're going to dabble and participate in LNC or LP drama, like I just challenge people to put forward one problem with government that they're having in their local town and also provide a solution. Because I want people to like not just provide problems, but I want them to give solutions too. So that's like one thing that I'm saying here too, is like, like you say the problem, LPNH, some bad tweets. What's the solution in your mind that doesn't involve purging somebody from the party or kicking somebody off the comms team?
Why are you projecting that responsibility on everybody else? They're not the chair.
No, but I'm just saying. It's like it's one thing to just say.
I'm happy to answer.
You don't have to answer it. Honestly, it's LPNH's job.
I would
love to
that question. The question is whether or not we should. Isn't that your responsibility?
Sure, but I'm saying I'm just saying in general. Like, there's a lot of people that complain about it. Nobody really wants to do anything. Nobody does shit.
The answer for me is, as part of your social strategy for what you're going to put out, don't just measure the impacts, positive or negative. Don't just look at what it's going to do for New Hampshire. Sure, New Hampshire first. I get it. That's what decentralized is all about. It allows us to specialize. It's very effective as a strategy. But understand that everything y'all do has ripple effects. And the whole LNC drama hasn't affected North Carolina much at all. And I can only speak from what we see, but nobody cares about that. And it's a little sad maybe, but like y'all do. I mean, you really do.
Yeah. Was there a question associated with that?
No, you had said, how do you balance that? And
Yeah.
I was like, this is how I would balance it, is like, understand you really have an effect. And like, before you hit that send button or whatever it may be,
we do,
like,
we understand that because we have a big following that, you know, we have a role in defining libertarianism to a lot of people. And, you know, if this is the first thing somebody sees, they're either going to be turned on or turned off. And I think that like if somebody's turned off by something that we say, generally they're, you know, probably, you know, speech cancel mob type people anyways, but that's not necessarily always the case. You know, I don't know. Like I agree. We do know that there's a sense of responsibility there. And I know that for me, I'm the chair. I understand that there's a responsibility there to, you know, put forward your best, you know, put your best foot forward and all that. So,
hey, I just want to answer something in the comments real quick.
Sure.
Truth says that it's odd that we gave Harlows more time than Meredith. If you watched the entire broadcast, Meredith rage quit. No one asked Meredith to leave.
It's odd that you guys gave Karen Ann Harlow's time at all, to be honest with you.
I don't think that's odd at all. I think
it was.
Oh my gosh, let's not go back to that one. Let's stay on topic.
Yeah, I mean that's
you're here.
Do
you have something to say about Karen Ann Harlow? You're here now.
I'm not saying anything bad about Karen Ann Harlow. She decided to dox me today for no fucking reason. So like that was a shitty thing to do. Kind of a bitch move. But other than that, like I'm not interested in, you know, dealing with that shit. I think that she was right to resign from the LNC. I think that truthfully, there comes a time on different boards where you understand that certain people and personalities just can't work together. She realized that in herself and she stepped out. And I think that more people should do that. And if I had to predict, more people will do that before the next convention. So, you know, and the same thing happened with the FSP board. You know what I mean? People just disagreed with each other. And, you know, like, I disagree with...
The show wasn't about Meredith. The show wasn't about Meredith. Meredith was allowed to respond. She was not...
Well, okay, she can come on anytime. Like, pretty much anyone has a standing invite if they want to come on and talk.
I'm not interested. Yeah, like I'm not interested in bashing people.
Come on now, right?
I mean, talking bad about any of that. I'm saying that, you know, like there comes a time when boards aren't functional with competing personalities. I think people need to do better about recognizing that in themselves sooner. And if they can't handle it, they should leave. And if they can handle it, then maybe the best thing to do is to rally support from your colleagues to have whatever you're disagreeing with removed. So,
yeah, I mean, like I said, I think, you know, Kyle had brought up that like you're on a podcast right now of people that are all trying to do something. Right? We're trying to change a paradigm of how do we interact with people that we might not agree with. What is ways that we can talk about where certain messaging can still happen and be amenable to more libertarians and it not be so off-putting, right? The idea of principled but palatable, right, for multiple versions of libertarianism, I think is important. We're also getting involved in real world stuff, right? We're trying to change the paradigm at these No Kings protests. We have people that are actively involved in the party. I hate parliamentary process. I hate going to conventions. I hate all of it. I think it sucks. I hate all of it. So that doesn't really like get me excited, but there's tons of us in our grouping that's their aim. We're doing phone call outreach, all volunteer, right? Across the 50 states. You know, what you see in just the Discord alone or online in our threads is not the limit of like who we're working with. And so the argument is like, what are we doing? This is what we are doing, right? And the question is like, what comes next if this keeps going, right? And that it is a kind of drastic shift in the party. You know, will everybody just rage quit like we had with the very far left libertarians after the arena reset?
Crazy shit after Grand Rapids, man. Like this party is going to go one direction or the other.
Well, so that's our goal, is to make it not happen.
I agree.
The point is there's a pendulum swing back and forth.
I know.
Burns people out.
But if you even just look at the comment section here, half of these people want me purged from the party. Do you know what I'm saying? So like I have donated thousands of dollars and hours to this cause. And I don't think that we're competing with each other and doing different things. Yeah, obviously, I'm chair of LPNH. You know, disagree with me with whatever you want. As an individual, I put a lot of time into this shit. Okay. And I'm trying to also put my best foot forward and do the right thing. That's why I started the Emo Caucus, was because this is like really like, you know, the caucus wars suck. They really do. So I was trying to find a place where we can all just like agree with like, this music is good. So let's jam out. Let's do some karaoke and, you know, like agree to disagree. We have some chats with like the most wild kind of diversity you could ever imagine. And it works. But, and I think that's what you guys are trying to do here too. But there's a lot of people. This party's going to go one direction or the other, and it's not going to be good. It's going to split. It's going to cause the party to basically have to go back down to bare bones.
I'd like to
It
see.
have to.
I'd
It
like to see it.
absolutely
happen
trying to be
again.
a
realist.
The
It's
pendulum
gonna-
swing is.
But it doesn't have to, and you have real power to prevent that. Like, think about how far it would go if tomorrow there was a tweet from LPNH that was like, yeah, we beefed with LP Louisiana before, but the truth is, like, they're libertarian as fuck. Everything they say is base. We may disagree on some certain points, but we're all in this fight together.
I would never say that.
I don't want
I'd like
to
to see a
either.
I understand. Yes,
swing
I get it.
in
I
the
get what you're saying.
direction of radical libertarians and away from the statists in general. Okay, it's like, look, I agree. It was leaning too far in the, you know, like towards the Democrat wing of the statist duopoly prior to the Mises takeover. That caused the pendulum swing in the direction of the Mises takeover. Because like when I joined, like they were saying that they were going to be radical libertarians. They were going to run libertarian candidates who were focused on things like central banking and anti-imperialism. That of course did not happen, and they just ended up being Republican leaning and trying to work with Republican candidates. However, like, yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could actually have a party that represented real libertarians, that we didn't have to constantly do this back and forth? Oh, you know, oh no, we're supposed to be conservative. We're supposed to work with Republicans. No, we're supposed to work with Democrats because they're more libertarian. Like, yeah.
I agree. I think that we should have a party for libertarians, aka anarchists. So yeah, I think, but all joking aside, like, yes, like, I don't want it to cause some kind of huge fallout. I kind of am one of those guys who has friends everywhere. Like, there's, like Phil mentioned, people in California that vehemently disagree with me just because I'm the chair of LPNH and they don't think I'm doing enough or whatever the fuck they want to say. You know, like, those are, you know, same people that I could probably pick up the phone with and have a great conversation with that are my friends. But that's not the case for a lot of people in the party. It's very partisan. It's very polarized. People legitimately hate each other. I just saw a comment go by saying purge Ben from the party. Like, that's fine. Like, it's funny. Ha ha ha. Like, I'll be here till you kick me out. Like, I'm going to fight with you too until you kick me out. So that's fine. But
we'll have a mud wrestling competition at the at Grand Rapids. I think that was Archie who said that.
Do they even have mud in Michigan? Isn't it all just frozen solid because it's too cold up there? Why are you shaking your head, Sarah? This is like, you don't want to mud wrestle? I don't want to mud wrestle you. I'm not gonna lie.
It's cold enough here.
Ouch.
New Hampshire's great. I don't know what you're talking about. It's like fucking 90 degrees today.
In the winter, obviously. Actually, it's really funny because people say that to me all the time. Isn't it cold up there? And I'm like, it's bipolar.
Someone says I'm scared of losing friends. I'm not. I've actually lost quite a bit of friends throughout all of this. I've been backstabbed. Me being just part of, like, kind of more of an anti-caucus guy, you know, has cost me like a lot of, you know, lost trust with good friends that I've built up for a long time. So I'm not scared of losing friends. I'm not here also to make friends either. So I'd really like to make a difference. And I might have different goals than everyone else, but I promise you that, like, if we're all working generally towards the same overall goals, which is to, like, reduce the size of government and fight against localized tyranny, you know, with our, you know, even our local town boards and shit, like, that's all, like, I feel like we're all trying to do that. Like, no one's not trying to do that. So I don't know. Kick me out. Fine. I'm gonna keep doing it outside the party. Then I'll just join the anarchist party in New Hampshire. I'm sure they'll take me.
I mean, I look at
There's
it more.
an anarchist party.
I mean, I founded it, by the way.
Okay. Libertarian Party is already kind of self-contradictory in and of itself, but anarchist party.
It is definitely.
Ben's being called to bed.
Oh, I clicked the wrong one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was that?
It's time to feed the babies.
It's
time to feed the babies. But I'm here until she gets real mad.
The mentality I had is that, like, in reality, we need to just have a party that is willing to represent more than just one type of libertarian, right? I know when we kind of initially kicked off LPA, the idea was that we want to have a slate that has right libertarians, left libertarians, non-affiliated libertarians, all different types that come together to say, what is the pathway forward, right? And to be willing to do that means that you say, hey, maybe we aren't going to produce this crazy identarian stuff, right? Maybe we don't put that out there because we know it's going to isolate, right? Maybe we don't put out, another kind of a statement. And I think this is the main point, is that if you choose not to do that, then yes, you're going to end up with what seems like a pendulum swing no matter what. But you have the ability in your position now to try to change that dynamic, right? In reality, you can do it. Or maybe you can't. Maybe you would be purged from your own chair seat, as other people have before, from going against him.
Would you guys prefer to have me as the LPNH chair, or would you prefer to have Jeremy Kauffman? That's, I guess, your question.
if you don't do anything,
I publicly supported you.
If you don't change a paradigm, then it makes no difference, right? Like,
and objectively, for what it is, like, honestly, that's what it would come down to at the last convention. It would have been me or Jeremy, and honestly, like, things would, I'm doing some real life shit. Okay, we're out there doing stuff, and Sarah, come fucking do some stuff with the party. Stop complaining on the internet.
I don't have any emails.
Take some human action.
I don't trust you guys. I'm taking human action. I'm with LPA.
Oh, so LP Alliance, but not LP Alliance. You don't want to align with all the libertarians, just LP Alliance.
I can't align in good conscience with the party as it is right now.
Okay.
I can't do it. I spend, much like Rob said, I spend most of my time explaining to people what libertarianism actually is.
That's scary.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jeremy Kauffman. What does he keep saying to me? Oh, go be a Liberty Democrat.
I would support you if you ran as a Democrat. I would 100%. Like, I would donate $200. I would. If you ran as a Democrat, I'm putting this on video for everyone. I'll pay for your yard signs.
If I thought
I'll pay for your yard signs.
Change the Democratic Party here in New Hampshire.
I'm not saying change the party.
Talking to them at least on issues, and I don't
have to change the party. You just have to win the election and be Machiavellian and just get through the primary.
That's never going to happen.
If you get to the primary,
at the local level,
we had a trans anarchist sheriff primary.
I remember that. Yeah,
but that's a real thing. So why, like, you could do that?
Wasn't her slogan "Fuck the police"?
Yes. Like, I'm telling you, like, right now, like, I'll pay for your yard signs. All right, like,
that's hilarious.
I co-sign this. Can we get your wife on that comms committee, please?
She didn't sign up for the committee. She's never.
But who cares? You guys don't care about rules anyway. Come on, like, you're gonna do whatever you want anyway, right? You could get her in there, right? And maybe she could provide some counterbalance to some of the crazy shit that comes out of it. Like, actually, let's not do that.
She could just literally tell me to tweet something if it was good.
It would be the same account, but it would be arguing with itself. So yeah, that would be funny.
That's better than it just coming out as like a constant stream of like crazy shit.
But yes, I would.
I'm doing what I'm trained to do. I'm not trained to be a politician. I am trained to run a campaign. That's a whole different thing.
All right. Well, I'll find somebody to run in your district, and you can run their campaign then. So
there you go. Yep.
Never
gonna happen.
I'm not like
I'm too
I would love to talk
for
about
them.
more than just LPH, by the way. I feel like
the Democrats want nothing to do with me.
okay. I'm just saying, like, I can take more LPNH questions, more LPNH related heat. Like, it doesn't faze me. It doesn't bother me. I would love to talk about more than just LPNH while I'm here. Like, do you have any other questions that don't involve LPNH? Because there's a lot of interesting shit going on in my life and on the LNC and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of upset about the whole secret comms department at the LNC motion, that Karen Ann ostensibly, left the party over, or left her position over and resigned. I are you on that committee? Because she claims that you are, and she claims that's not privileged information.
it is privileged information, and
that's
it's
not what she said.
It's privileged information, and she's a bitch for doxing me. So that's what I'll say about that. I fully support the idea of a comms committee being, I feel like the comms committee will operate best in unison if it is anonymous and continues to be anonymous. And that if our chair and comms director have the control of that, and if you have any problems with the comms, you can therefore direct your complaints towards the comms director or the chair, and not go on another cancel mob campaign and try to get people kicked off of committees.
Excuse me, I personally never did that.
I'm not saying that you did. I'm just saying that there are.
To be ousted. I'm calling for you to be accountable. So just to be clear, even though you want me gone, I don't want you gone.
There's a lot of people that don't want me to participate in that stuff. So Archie Flower. Speaking of faggots,
that's a little strong.
Sorry,
I'm sorry, but again, there is a lack of transparency and accountability, and it's at every level of the party right now. And I just don't see anybody answering the questions as to what they're going to do about it.
Sure. Well, yeah, there's a motion for a comms committee to be established. That's under the direction of the comms director. It's how a lot of political organizations operate. They have an anonymous committee that operates their comms. It's a big committee. And I fully support that. So I believe that the comms committee probably should be anonymous, and I don't think that that's a problem at all.
And you don't think that there's a better way to balance?
No, I think this is how every
the claim that they're making is safety.
Too.
Okay.
I think that every affiliate should operate that way too. I really do. I think that
I'm not here to argue about it. I just want to clarify.
No, sure. Like, I think that, like, generally it puts things back in the chair's lap. So if something goes wrong, just like I'm getting all the shit for LPNH, like, the chair should be the person that's held accountable, or the comms director, or both.
So my vote would be for the comms director, and that's as a former comms director.
Yeah.
I also want to be held accountable when I'm hired to do a job.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it like Stephen says he wants to turn things around. I don't believe him, or at least he's unwilling to do the things that are necessary to do it. I legitimately think if he wants to turn it around, he can go look at his largest donation increases at various times. What happened when they were doing it? It was a radical change from the current trajectory that was on there. So when McCardle left, when Heiss was removed, right? When these sort of things happened, there was huge dumps of donations back into the party, and continuing to keep somebody who's siding with that sort of trajectory as the comms director, who's unwilling to represent libertarians that are not on the same side as him. So like maybe, he's only wanting to represent social conservatives alone. That's a problem right now.
We had this problem with Reed Cooley. Remember, Reed Cooley, I don't think lasted very long, but that was the first person that was put in there. And I actually like Reed. I thought he did a pretty good job, but he took a lot of heat for basically making the message, like, swinging it too quickly, I think, the other direction. But, like, generally, I feel like, there's got to be one, like, I think that there's a huge problem with the lack of, like, unified vision for this stuff, obviously, because of all the caucus wars and the division. Even, like, on the LNC, there's, like, basically like 3 or 4 splits right now. I can't even keep track of all of it, but for the most part, I think that like 70-80% of the LNC would probably agree on the comms strategy and direction, with the exception of maybe very few things. But I think that like it's better to not put that in a divided LNC's hand and put it in the hands of like a comms director or let's say the chair to establish the ground rules, what he wants to see for their vision, so that we can like the best way to facilitate a chair's goals is to echo that through the messaging. So
I agree. And this is my point, is that I think he's unwilling to do what's necessary to achieve a goal that's going to turn the party around. Right.
You're talking about Steve.
Yeah, I think it comes from him that he is still wanting to keep it this, far right or right libertarian alone, and not focus on like, hey, is there a way that we can make right libertarian messaging that is palatable to the left libertarians and some left libertarian messaging that's palatable to the right libertarians? And when you put it into a hand of a guy that's like, hey, anything to do with LGBT stuff and their rights against government intrusion.
Well, first of all, Brian Williams has never done that. I'm not trying to like just spit names either, but like
I mean, there was a quote of him basically saying that the porcupine that was a rainbow colored porcupine
that
was
did more damage
in the last 5 years.
Apparently, any tweet saying, yeah.
And I'm sure that
if
was like,
someone has cancer and can't afford the treatment, they should die, among other things.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure like whatever he says on his private account, that's his thing.
Well, he was discussing
for anybody.
He was discussing it, and then this whole plan of making this committee was discussed. As like this was going to be in the works because of that, right? And so
I'll say that like as I'm not even gonna like say anything about the committee really, but I'll say that I understand why you'd think it's problematic, but I'll say that hypothetically, if I was on the comms committee, that
Sorry, your wife is killing it. I apologize. I would not laugh at you.
Oh god, yeah, that's quite the punishment that she's threatening.
Yeah, she's really driving a hard bargain here.
At least it's not could be worse.
But
I can think of one.
What I was gonna say is I think that if hypothetically if I was on the comms committee, like I don't think hypothetically that a lot of what you guys are complaining about is even a real thing. I think it's fabricated by somebody who's disgruntled by the LNC. So, I
mean, I think this argument of, hey, we're going to delete a tweet because it doesn't resonate exactly with our version of libertarian is not great. And really, in reality, what should happen if there's going to be a committee is that there should be discussions of how do we say and talk about LGBT rights, especially when it comes to government, especially if we're going to try to shift, the pride back to the original Stonehenge, Stonewall messaging, that happens because there's discussions that are in good faith between right libertarians and left libertarians. Like, hey, you don't want a rainbow flag? Okay, then we're going to say something about pride and about how it is resisting of the government, right? And that people should be able to live their lives that are not harming others. But because there's this bend of like, hey, we actually can't piss off social conservatism, like we can't even talk about that, right? And I think
it was already like it was a compromised tweet to begin with. Like it was already very watered down. Like they could have gone into a lot more detail, like about the Stonewall riot and how that was libertarian as fuck, and that's what we should be. That's the exact sort of thing. That's the exact sort of pushback against state authoritarianism that we should be promoting. But yeah, it was a very mild tweet. Then as a result, no one was happy. Like
Ben and Jeremy were like,
"This is lame," and then the conservatives were like, "No, this is authoritarianism," and I'm triggered. And yeah, they went on to whine that it was causing damage to the party somehow.
I will say that I think that a lot of those type of things tend to be virtue signaling, but I'm not going to speak specifically.
You don't think that everything that Jeremy posts is virtue signaling?
Yeah, this is.
Are you kidding?
It is in the other direction. I actually agreed for a while. Like when I first joined the Mises Caucus, I'm like, okay, I don't think we need to be posting. I don't think we need to be making posts about how we condemn racism because like it's so obvious that we all agree on that. I've kind of revised that position because I realized like if you don't put out the occasional signal, you end up attracting people to the party who think that they're going to be welcome in our circles when they're not the types of people we want to attract.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen that. I definitely
you need
agree
the
with
occasional counter signal. Like I was opposed
everything
to
is kind of
deleting
virtue
the
signaling.
bigotry plank, for example, because the optics were terrible and there was nothing wrong with the plank, in my opinion. But like I understood at least like where the people were like the argument that was put forward for why it needed to go. They're like, well, because bigotry is a vague concept and people are using it to claim that we're bigoted. So I'm like, okay, I guess I can kind of see where you're coming from, but no, like you need
They're
symbols like that.
It was a stupid plank, and it was stupid to delete it. It was stupid on both ends.
I don't see anything wrong with it, but again,
I mean,
like,
I think that there's like maybe a need for some A/B testing with the LP. This is why some affiliates do look schizophrenic when they're posting. So like, you know, you'll be like, say the extreme on one side, just say the extreme on the other. Like I've seen Tim Pool do it. Like Tim Pool, like I hate Tim Pool. I think he's annoying as hell. But like, you know, he'll be like, oh, I hate Israel, and then the next post is like, oh, I love Israel, and he just tries to see how people react to it. It's kind of funny. That's just like one example, but like, yeah, I think that like A/B testing with LP affiliates might do us some good to actually be a little schizophrenic sometimes. I don't know.
I mean, it
balances it out at least.
Talking, and I guess you're attracting people from both crowds, and then they fight in the comments section, which drives engagement. So there's always that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it as more like it was a filtering mechanism to basically.
Right. Yeah, it's telling certain people, hey, this is what we support, and if this bothers you, you're probably not going to have.
Well, you're probably not willing to fight for the liberty of others that you don't live like, right? And I think that's been the key thing of the Libertarian Party always, was that you will fight for people that live completely different lives than you, that you could never relate to personally, right? Like there are many things that I can't relate to personally that I will, if it came down to it, I'm going to argue in favor of fighting for it. And so I think that's the problem, is that when that statement was there, it filtered out people that would be unwilling to do that. And I think it's very clear based on the minute somebody sees it, they freak out. Oh, I would never support the rights of these people. You see it even in the chat where somebody's like, you know, where was it? That, you know, they don't want to lift up the alphabet group. They are people who also deserve liberty. But like, if you're not willing to tell people like, hey, you deserve the liberty too, then like you're losing out on a demographic that probably wants it as well, and that could learn from it. And it, you know, in reality, they've had to go against government oppression for a long time in Americans' history. And like, to not reach out to that because you don't agree with some social aspect of their life is a bad way of moving forward.
Yeah, but so I'm against oppression, period. I'm against almost all government. I don't know what bigotry means. It is like the ultimate, like, what does it mean to be we're against bigotry? I don't know. It was a stupid
It is
plank
one of
to me.
those, look, it's one of those know it when I see it things, because it's hard to define, but yet at the same time, like someone blatantly saying, oh, we can't have Chase Oliver as our candidate because he's an abomination, or, oh, we have to only message to white people, we can't have other races because they're inferior or something like that. Yeah, I think most people would agree that's bigotry.
But if we pursue those strategies, we will fail, and they will.
Can I give a shout out?
Therein, like, crush themselves. Of course.
Lars Mapstead, he's still my guy. I hope he runs for president again. All right, Lars Mapstead, maybe Larry Sharp too. I hope they fucking run again. That was my dude, and I'm gonna stick with that forever. He's a legend. Sorry, that was random, but I seen someone talking in the comments about it somewhere. So
I'm gonna agree with this. One day we will rise up and steal their sweet tree juice that has a bunch of sugar in it, and eventually
there's plenty of it in New Hampshire, dude. Like I'm like 3 hours from fucking Canada, man. There's plenty of good syrup here. You do not need to go up to Canada. There ain't nothing good up there. They got Mounties. They got Canadian Border Patrol that will round your ass up and send you back to fucking, I don't know, where are you from, Illinois or something? I don't know. I'm probably completely wrong. But
no, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're from PA. I was born and raised in State College. Cool. Yeah, like you don't want to go to fucking Canada. Fuck that place. Terrible place.
There is we are going to be having LPA Live tomorrow night with Lars on. You know, we do try to highlight, you know, what we think is good libertarian activism, good libertarian intra-party behavior, and Lars is one of them. And so he will be coming on tomorrow night as well for LPA Live to have some great discussions. I don't know who's hosting that. If Amanda can post in there who's hosting it, that would be cool. I'm guessing her.
I think it's Amanda and Kyle.
Far and away the best LP candidate that was available this last term. The most successful person. That's why I thought he was the most interesting. I thought generally, like, almost all the other candidates were very unaccomplished people, boring, and not really worth running for president. So Lars was my guy. It still will be.
So look, I'm gonna propose. We're at almost 2.5 hours. I feel like this has actually been a very productive conversation. We were civil without holding back. I would like to suggest maybe Ben that we look to schedule something else out. Because this should not be a one-time thing. This is a conversation that should keep going.
Sure.
I would also suggest, Sarah, that you reach out to Ben. I understand your hesitancy, but they are hurting without having you involved. I would encourage you to push past it and see what you can do to drive some change too, because we just need more libertarians working together. Like, we spend so much fucking time fighting with each other, and ICE is kidnapping people, and we go from a dementia patient to fucking Hitler. I mean, it's just, we're losing because we're fighting with each other, and we just need to push past this.
No promises. We'll see what happens.
So I do. Jeremiah has been tweaking.
I'm very strategic. Okay, so I don't make those kinds of commitments on the air, but I'll think about it.
Jeremiah's been tweaking in here about evidence of a claim that I made earlier, and I he keeps bringing up because he wants his tweet shown.
I kind of touched on this too, like something about like the Liberty Plus people. Like
if you go to his page, or if he wants to tweet under this, people can go see the evidences of the people that are associated with nationalist movements, fascist movements, because I do find it kind of disingenuous that people say they've never seen these people, but they're getting quote tweeted. He has seen and has screenshots associated with it. I'll tell him to put in there. I actually don't know how to bring up pages on here, and so I've kind of just been ignoring it. And when I brought it up on Twitter on my screen, it actually looked a little bit blurry. But if you want to go check it out, go check it out. So he stops having an aneurysm and thinking I'm evil or something.
And Jim, for the record, we discussed it, and it just felt like a significant deep dive that perhaps is owed its own space, as opposed to just being part of this one.
Maybe one we'll actually bring you on or something like that if you can not angrily tweet at me for like 24 hours or so.
You gotta have a thick skin to be a libertarian.
I gotta say, like,
everyone here actually is.
I really appreciate you guys like having me here and bringing me on. I know it's like kind of a different situation. I don't really agree, with a lot of like left libertarianism. You guys have called me out on that on Twitter, but we also agree on plenty of other things. And I think that's what you guys are trying to promote here, that we actually do have a lot of common ground. I'm not the enemy. I'm really not. The government's your enemy. We can disagree on LPNH. I accept feedback mostly from members. People from other states I don't care as much about. I've said that before. But truthfully, like, I appreciate you guys having me here. Please, if you want me back, I'd be happy to come back or whatever to kind of wrap up more questions, maybe that don't involve LPNH, because there's a lot of more interesting shit. Like, dude, like the shit we're doing in real life with Punks for Liberty, man, we're going to hit up 3 music festivals this year. We got volunteers popping up all over the country, like to go out and like talk to people, meet people where they're at and do that liberty shit. You know what I mean? So like, this is what it's about, and, I like I said, I appreciate it. You don't have to agree with me. You can fucking try to purge me from the party. That's fine. You can purge me, but I'm still going to work. So.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Ben, for coming on.
Thanks for coming on. As a fellow Region 6er, glad we were able to have this talk.
Yes, for sure.
We do have a couple plugs before we go. Sarah, you were the one that remembered.
This is true. How do I do it do I do it in design? How do I bring things up? I legitimately have no idea how to do this. The fact that Kyle's not here doing this is like, yeah, dude, what are you doing? Oh, QR codes. That's how I do it, I think.
Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest. I am going to be speaking at Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest and also DJing. We're going to do some metal.
Oh, we have that in common. Okay. I didn't know that.
You can support the LPA by donating to our nonprofit that's associated with us. And you can go to the store, check out, get some merch like these T-shirts and some hats.
Like flag.
Yeah, like the flag. That's the Death to Kingmakers flag if people don't understand another language. We also have to tell people to join the Alliance. Come in here. You can see that we will have kind of heated discussions, but we also, aren't going to be absolute douchebags to each other. We call out how we see it. We want to win, and I think the only way
we really want to win.
It's changing of the paradigm to win together. And we don't actually have it up here yet, but there is a new publication. You can find it on our X account. It's The Torch. And if you want to write for it, reach out to Amanda or Sarah, send an article, anything associated with libertarian thought and theory, discuss it in black and white. And with that, again, thank you, Ben, and we will see you guys next time.